All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Grizzly's Cave. This is Grizzly Andrew, and I have a very special guest this afternoon. But before I get to my guest, I do want to plug a couple things that I've plugged on the previous episodes. First is the GoFundMe account. Uh, this is basically to build a future training facility for current trainees and future wrestling trainees. The account is Help Ben Build a Future for Indie Wrestling Stars, and the link is gofund.me/9 B as in boy, 2 F as in Frank, C as in Charles, 903. And the second thing I want to plug is the next NAW wrestling event will be next Saturday, March the 8th at 7 p.m. at the Nebo Community Center in Nebo, Kentucky. Doors will open around 6 or 6:30, give or take. Ticket prices are as follows: 0 to 5 get in free, ages 6 to 12, $5 a piece, and then anybody 13 and older, it is $8. And concessions will be made available. And it is a family-friendly promotion, and I promise you will not leave disappointed. All right, without further ado, with my guest today, we will discuss some wrestling, but I actually met this man in the acting world. I met this man back in 2009 through a promotion production company called Big Biting Pig Productions, and he is actually one of the individuals that gave me my first break into the acting profession or hobby, however you want to say it. He has been involved in many Big Biting Pig production films. He also directed many films, and he also has done work in the community theater. And without further ado, I want to welcome to Grizzly's Cave the man, the myth, the ski mask, Steve Hudgins. Steve, thank you for coming to Grizzly's Cave. It is an honor and a privilege to have you on here, man.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me to be on. Yeah, I'm excited.
So, you know, we've known each other for 16 years. I know we haven't really crossed paths much. I think the last time we saw each other was in 2020 over in over at Walmart in Princeton, and
Yeah.
and this was right after the shutdown had happened, and they were kind of starting to open the state and the country back up. And instead of me wearing a ski mask, I was wearing one of them COVID masks and all that. And I hollered at you, "Ski mask!" And without missing a beat, you turned and you saw me, and it was awesome to get to see you. But I know after COVID hit, everybody kind of went their own ways, and had to stay isolated and whatnot. But over the course of the time I've known you, I've never really asked you some of these questions that's kind of run through my mind. Um, I believe I know the answer to the first question, but um, were you a fan of scary movies growing up?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Since I was a very young kid, I used to go to the movies with my mom used to go to the movies a lot, and she would always take me no matter what it was. I saw everything. So yeah, gosh, when I mean, I saw I guess I was probably 6, 7 years old when I started going to the movies, and man, I saw everything. Yeah, and that's when I was 6 or 7 years old. We're talking late '70s, so through the '70s and '80s, all those classic horror movies. Man, I saw most of them at the theater. So yeah, gosh, yes, I love horror. I always have. Nothing like a good horror movie.
This is very true. Now, just out of curiosity, what any favorites? Any favorites that stand out that you care to share?
um, this is I consider it a horror movie because it's basically a monster movie. My favorite movie of all time is Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the shark's the monster.
Right.
Um, my other favorites are John Carpenter's Halloween, um, and The Shining, and John Carpenter's The Thing. Those are probably my top four horror movies.
Okay. Um, I've actually don't. don't hate on me for this. I've only seen bits and pieces of Halloween 4 and 5, and I've seen Halloween Resurrection, the entire movie. I actually mentioned that with a previous guest a couple weeks ago because he has he likes scary movies, and he has a little channel on YouTube called Fright Night Narrative, and so we had probably talked about 30 minutes or so. But um, yeah, man, Jaws. I've seen bits and pieces of Jaws, and yeah, nothing like seeing a monster-sized shark. Gonna eat you, terrorize you, and whatnot. Um, but what about the Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th movies?
uh, yep. Friday the 13th, 1 and 2. I love both of those movies. I don't care for anything after that. I'm not a big fan of most horror movie sequels. I don't think there's many sequels that are anywhere near the originals. But yeah, I like the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Real creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one a lot. I don't like any of the sequels very much. Um, Friday the 13th one is excellent. I like Friday the 13th Part 2 even better. After that, no. But
Okay.
yeah, I do love those original movies. Absolutely. I
Um,
guess we should mention Texas Chainsaw Massacre too, because that is a gritty classic.
yes, sir. I actually did. I had with my previous guest that I just said a little couple minutes ago. I did mention about Big Biting Pig. I also mentioned about Bill Johnson being in a couple of the Big Biting Pig movies and all that. And so, if you get a chance, listen to that episode. Um, I've
Oh, I
actually
definitely will. Yeah.
it's about a 2.5 hour conversation, so just to kind of prepare you for that. So,
Okay. Cool.
um, oh, so let's see here. Yeah, so Brianna has become a big fan. Well, she's a big fan of the Scream movies. I actually watched all six of them with her, and
Okay.
after me and my now estranged wife, after we split up, and I started to have more freedom to do as I please, and I've got a Roku, I started watching other scary movies. So I watched all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, except the reboot or remake that they did back in 2010, and then I watched all the Friday the 13th 1 through 8. I've seen Jason Goes to Hell. I've seen Jason X, but the other movies I hadn't seen, so it's kind of a gap filler, so to speak. But no, I get what you're saying about the sequels. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, very creepy. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, it's a good concept. A real good concept.
Yeah.
Very original.
Oh, absolutely. So, now, you're originally from Kentucky, or were you from somewhere else?
I was born and raised in Chicago and the northern Chicago suburbs. I moved to Kentucky when I was 28. I've
Oh,
been in Kentucky ever since.
okay. I've actually never been to Chicago. But I've heard the weather could get pretty brutal up there, especially in the winter time. Is that true?
Oh yeah, it's horrible. I mean, if you don't like cold weather, it's horrible. When I was a kid, I mean, when it snowed the first time, which was usually in late November or early December, there was snow on the ground until March. You didn't see grass again until spring. So yeah, it's a cold place.
But I take it that the winters that we have down here in Kentucky, it's pretty much mild compared to what it was up in Chicago.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's mild. Yeah. Yeah. I've been here long enough now. I've been in Kentucky almost as long as I've been in Illinois. So I'm far removed from that now. So I I I probably nowadays in Kentucky, I think the winters are as cold as most Kentucky folks do. So,
Right.
but yeah, I have experienced real cold. So yeah, I I get it.
Yes, sir. I've got a coworker, and she's originally from Detroit, and so anytime that they're calling for bad weather and stuff, she just shirks it off. She's like, basically, in a nutshell, y'all don't know winters until you've lived up in Michigan and whatnot. So,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, yeah, yeah.
Do you still go to Chicago? Do you ever travel up to Chicago from time to time, or you pretty much just stay here in Kentucky?
No, it's been a long time since I've been back to Chicago. It's been a long time. It's been, gosh, it's probably been about 20 years. So no, I don't go back to Chicago often at all.
I completely understand that. Um, so I take it while you were up in Chicago, that's when you, I guess, took an interest in acting.
No, believe it or not, that didn't happen until I moved to Kentucky for the most part. I've always been a writer, so I've always kind of created, I've always kind of thought it'd be fun to act, but gosh, I didn't actually get into it until um, it was like, gosh, early 2000. I think it was 2004. On a whim, actually my nephew, who was just a kid at the time, was auditioning for Oliver at the Glima Center, which is in Madisonville, has the community theater on occasion, and
Hmm.
uh, my sister talked me into going and auditioning too, because I had always talked about it'd be fun to do some acting, and damn if I didn't get a real big part in that. I got the Bill Sykes role, and I ran with that, and it was a blast. And geez, I haven't stopped since. I mean, I went on a acting tear for um, several years. Did a lot of theater all over the place. I did Owensboro, Madisonville, Paducah. I just all over the region. I acted in all the theaters in the region, and then I got into making movies. Kind of stopped doing theater as much as I was, and started making movies. That's where Big Biting Pig comes in. And for 10 years, I guess it's over the course of 9 years, we made 10 no budget horror movies. And yeah.
Well, it's funny you mention Bill Sykes. Um, some of the listeners that know me personally, they know that I was in community theater for a short time, and over at Greenville, over at the Palace Theater, this would have been the fall of 2012. They had Oliver, and I was actually Bill Sykes as well over there,
Yeah.
and it was a blast being able to play that. And honestly, Steve, I could see why they would cast you for that. Just from before I met you, when I saw you in, Maniac on the Loose and Goat Sucker and all that, I was like, yeah, I could definitely see why they would pick him for that part. So, man, that's
Oh yeah.
awesome.
And I played him real mean.
Heck, I
Bill, my Bill Sykes had ski mask blood flowing through his veins. He was mean.
Oh Lord! For those of you that do not know, Ski Mask is a character from Maniac on the Loose, and that is actually my favorite of all time Big Biting Pig production movies. And if you haven't seen it, please go see it. Steve, just out of curiosity now, where can our listeners find the Big Biting Pig movies?
They're scattered all over the place. Most of them are, but you can find them all. Let's see. They're either on Tubi or YouTube, one or the other. They're on some other places too, but I think our what is on Tubi? It lives in the attic is on Tubi. I also think Francis Stein is on Tubi, and everything else is on YouTube. You could just go to YouTube and search for any of our movie titles, and they'll be there. I have everything linked to my website, which is maniacontheloose.com. If anybody wanted to check out any of our movies, they're no budget horror movies, but they're all available somewhere. You could just go to my website and click the movie section, and you can see all the titles. And if anything appealed to you, you could. I have where they're at listed right there, so it's a pretty user friendly, easy site to use.
Awesome, and I definitely appreciate you plugging the site. I'm sad to say I haven't checked that out, but I need to. Um, now, you mentioned all the places that you've done community theater at. Did you ever do anything in Greenville?
You know, I never did. I've seen shows there, and my nephew was in some shows there, but I never did. No, I never did perform in Greenville.
Okay. I know you were there whenever I did my first one, Harvey. I remember you being there for that, and
Uh huh. Yeah,
yeah, you were in the front row if I remember correctly, and that was
probably. I love the front row.
yes, sir. And that was actually a sold out night for that program if I remember correctly, because back then they were doing six performances, three for one weekend, three for the other weekend. So, but yeah, man, and now let me think. The one the musical we did back in 2010, South Pacific. Um, that's when I got to kind of get to know you a little bit better and stuff and all that. And that was my first entrance to the musical side of acting and all that. And I got to say, I think we all stole the show, man.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we were the sailors. I played the Billis character, and yeah, we stole that. We stole that whole thing. We knocked it out.
Yeah, yeah, we did, and I think you enjoyed getting hoisted on mine and Robert Blumrick's shoulders and stuff and all that too, and all that at the end of that
Oh, that was
number.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, at the end of our big end of our big song and dance number, I got hoisted up by Andrew and Rob, and yeah, that was awesome.
oh God, yeah, yeah, man. It's crazy to think it's been 15 years since all that happened. Gosh dang, and
Oh, that's insane.
and,
Yeah.
and the crazy thing is, boss is I never auditioned for that. You may not know this, but Megan, she had auditioned for it, and apparently they were really needing men, for the sailors, and I don't know if somebody had asked her to ask me or if she, just kind of took it upon herself. But yeah, she had asked me if I'd be interested, and I said, well, I mean, I can, because I was working for Aldi at the time, and we didn't have a set schedule. It was just whatever mood the manager was in, he'd schedule us for. And I said, well, I said I can, come to rehearsals and stuff, but I mean, I can't be there for every one just because we don't have a consistent work schedule. So that's actually how I got my break in regards to the musical. Um, and then coincidentally, I think it was a month before you all had auditions for the Creepy Doll, which was PJ's movie, and yeah, and
Hmm.
then I got cast for that. So yeah, so the spring summer of 2010 was when McGregor Mania was running wild in the acting world, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did that because that was a lot of fun. Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that show, and yeah, it was right around then. I guess you started getting involved in the movies a little bit.
Yes, sir. Now let me get back to PJ. Now, when did you and her meet, and then decide to have come up with this concept of Big Biting Pig Productions?
We met. I believe it was the summer of uh, 2000, 2005, I believe. So we were both in a show together. We were in a show at the Galema Center called The Nerd. I played the title character. I played the nerd, and she played forget her what character she played, but yeah, we met in that play, and we got to be friends. And then we did another show, I think about 6 months later at the Galema Center, and we were both in that as well. It was like a murder mystery, and a lot of this, as you're finding out here, a lot of this is tied to the amount of theater I used to do and how many people I used to meet when I did theater. And I actually came to Paducah and did a show not long after that at the Market House, the historic Market House Theater in downtown Paducah. And I met a couple guys there who were in the show with me, and we hit it off. And one of them had a little bit of filmmaking experience, The other one had a lot of acting experience. And I've always been a writer. I've written stories since I was a kid. And we started kicking around, maybe making a movie. And I'm like, well, I'll grab one of my old books that I wrote, and I'll turn it into a script, and we'll go ahead and see if we can make a movie. And just kind of recruited a lot of the acting folks from the different theater talent pools that we were aware of, and had no problem casting it. And then we shot most of it in Paducah. And the movie I speak of is called The Third Floor. This is pre-Big Biting Pig Productions. And we managed to do the damn thing. And none of us, I mean, one guy had a little bit of filmmaking experience, but I'm talking a little. We didn't know what we were doing, but I think it took about 6 or 7 months, but we shot the whole movie. And being that none of us knew what we were doing, we got the movie shot, and then we're like, okay, now we need to find somebody to edit this thing. And I knew PJ from the theater, and she had mentioned before she had edited some commercials. So I asked her if she'd be interested in possibly editing The Third Floor. And she was interested, and she wasn't like a real experienced editor, but she had some experience. And we got an editing software program, and I learned as she began editing the movie, I learned by her side, and we both edited that movie together. And editing is a long process. Mm-hmm. So we spent a lot of time together editing that movie, and by the time we were done with that and released it, we had a premiere and everything for it. The other two guys who I made The Third Floor with, they were burned out at that point, which is very understandable because it's a lot of work to make a movie. Sure. But they were kind of burned out, but I was just feeling like I was just warming up. I'm like, okay, I have the gist of how to do this now. I look at The Third Floor as a training film. I really learned how to make a movie doing that, and I'm like, I'm just warming up. I want to keep going. I've got a script in mind that I'm going to write, and I want to make another movie here real quick. Like I want to get this written and start shooting it in a matter of months here. And since those guys were burned out, I'm like, well, let me ask PJ if she'd be interested in maybe jumping on board with me. And since we had edited the last movie, I'm like, well, would you be interested in maybe assisting me in this movie? And it went from there. She was game. She was crazy enough to say yes, and she was basically co-produced the movie with me and helped in every aspect. And we edited it, and then from there, it was just like we both kind of had the bug. And she's a writer too. She's got college degrees in writing. And so she was interested in writing some scripts and shooting movies too. And we came up with the concept of she would write and direct one movie one year, and the next year I would write and direct the next one. And we would both co-produce every movie, and we both acted in pretty much every movie. And so that's how Big Biting Pig came around, and it's just kind of crazy. Over the course of 9 years, we released 10 different feature-length movies, feature-length horror films. I mean, they're all made with no budget, which is kind of insane. I had a guy who lives in California who has made a lot of movies, and he's always like, "Gosh, I only have like $1 million to make this movie." And I'm like, heck yeah. He said to me, he's like, "I don't know how you do it." And I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know what I do with $1 million on a movie. I just know how to make a movie with nothing.
Right.
So, but that's how that whole thing came across. So it's Big Biting Pig Productions. Our last movie we released our first movie, which was Maniac on the Loose, which I mentioned the ski mask character from Maniac on the Loose. That's a character I played who's who's really very crazy. And that was our first movie. We released it in 2008, and then our last movie was called "It Lives in the Attic," which Andrew was in. Plays he's perfect for the part he plays. He nails his part of Bradley, and that was our last movie. We released it in 2016. So yeah, we went kind of crazy there for about 9 years and released 10 movies.
Wow, I mean that. I
So
mean,
does that answer your question?
oh, hey, absolutely. I mean, because I never really did ask you or PJ or hell even Megan when me and her were still married at the time. I never really asked how this came into being. But so yeah, folks. I still get asked about this even to this day. So I'll give you the story, and Steve, you know, you can feel free to jump in at any time. So I auditioned for a character named named Bradley. So when I audition, I'm reading the stage directions basically, or the directions of this character and stuff, and basically it's in my mind that this guy's a Chippendales dancer or a Chippendales dancer wannabe. Well, I'm not much of a dancer, but you know I went in there and did the best that I could, and the person I was trying to woo would have been Felicia Stewart, which I think a lot of her, and I forgot to mention this. I think a lot of PJ Woodside as well. They're both good women, and had the pleasure of getting to work with. But so do the audition, and then I get the notification that I got the part, and I'm was pretty psyched about it. Well, came time for filming, so let's see. I had just 2 days of filming, and this would have been May of 2016. And my wife at the time, Megan, was in a few movies at the start of the that she was in. She was Megan Jones when me and her married. She became was known as Megan McGregor. She had done her filming, and then she had told me that I was advised to bring a black tank top just in case because I was told I had a quote special shirt waiting for me. So I'm like, okay. So then it comes time to shooting our first scene, which was at the Spirit Shop liquor store over in Madisonville. The one that's close to Arby's. So I show up. I'm wearing black boots, black pants, and Steve hands me a royal blue bag, and it kind of looked like you could either said it would look like a hex bag from the show Supernatural, or it looked like a bag that would hold a bottle of Crown Royal in it, you know. And he said everything you need, everything you need is in this bag. So I go to open this bag up. There are two studded rocker bracelets. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. Then there's this earring that's supposed to loop around the back of my ear. I'm like, okay, I'm not an earring guy. And then finally, I pull out this article of clothing, and I'm like, why is this fishnet? I said, oh my god, this is a fishnet shirt. They've turned Bradley into a Right Said Fred character. I was like, oh my god. And I was like, I'm gonna probably look ridiculous in this thing. And but anyways, so my character was he was a heavy, or as we would call like a big guy, a bruiser, whatever you want to say. But he also liked to dance. Well, I had to do a lot of dancing to music that wasn't really playing, in a nutshell. So I had to kind of kind of go on the fly with this. And then there was one at then so there was that scene, and oh my god, it was a blast. And then the next one was at Club Fun, and did a lot of dancing, stuck my pelvis out and stuff and all that. Did this infamous point, with both of my arms, and I still get people that do that to this day. Well, not as much recently, but when I first started working at Clark, people would say, "Hey, Andrew," and then they do the double arm pose with the fingers pointing, in one direction. I still get people saying, "Have you seen that movie? It Lives in the Attic. Andrew was in that," and I just kind of duck my head because I'm like, "Oh man." And then I'll be like, just so you know, there were other movies I was in as well. So that's not, but that has been my claim to fame. But with that being said, I owe that all to Steve here as well as PJ, and that was probably the most fun I had for any film that I was in, and and I owe you a debt of gratitude for that, Steve. And again, I appreciate the honor that you bestowed upon me to play that part. You could have given that to anybody, but y'all selected me. So that
Oh well, I'm so glad you were available to play the part. I'm so glad you auditioned for it because there's nobody else who could have played that part better than you did. I mean, you nailed it. It was awesome. I'm so happy you did that. It was. If you haven't seen It Lives in the Attic, folks, you need to watch it for Andrew because he is so every scene he's in, he's a blast. He's so fun in that. And he mentioned Club Fun. We should probably let folks know Club Fun is a sex fetish club, which Andrew's character, it appears, is a regular there. He seems very comfortable there, and he's awesome in that movie. Andrew is awesome in that movie. He just nailed that part. It's I could watch those Club Fun scenes with Andrew on a loop. They're very entertaining. That was some of the we made 10 movies. That Club Fun stuff was some of the funnest stuff that I mean it's sick. Some of the sickest stuff we ever shot, but it was also some of the funnest stuff that I ever had filming. So
yeah,
that stuff was great. Yeah. It Lives in the Attic is on Tubi, so anybody who has Tubi can just type in It Lives in the Attic. It'll come up.
yeah, man. And your character. You had mentioned about the nerd, and whenever you came for filming, and I've never seen you clean shaven other than the pictures of the nerd that I believe you had on your Facebook profile at one point, and I was like, okay, where are we going with this? And then when we started filming, I'm like, oh my gosh, he looks exactly like that nerdy fella from the movies that he had posted from a play that he had been in and stuff and all that. And I was like, gosh dang it, hell, Steve, you put me over, I'm gonna put you over. You nailed that part. I mean, every part you've been in, you've nailed it. I mean, hands down. And you know, I'm not saying this to blow smoke up your hind end by any means, but you absolutely nailed that part in It Lives in the Attic and all the other movies you've been in and stuff, man. You're just hands down a damn good actor, you know.
Well, I appreciate that, and the check is in the mail, Andrew, and no, but I really appreciate that nerd character I played in It Lives in the Attic. That was a lot of fun to play. That was a fun movie. Yeah, that was a real fun movie. I enjoyed that. Yeah, that's a fun one. I guess we should warn everybody who's gonna go and watch that it's weird. It's really really weird, and people tend to either love it or hate it. It's one of those types of movie. It's weird. You'll be in for a weird trip, and you will multiple times be saying, "What the hell am I watching?" So, but it all does tie together. You'd be like, "What's going on?" But it does tie together eventually.
Oh
So,
yes, absolutely. And we should probably warn the listeners. You probably don't. You definitely don't want to watch these movies with your kids. So yeah, yeah,
I would advise against it.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna circle back here to the third floor. So I watched that movie, and I remember calling you and telling you that I watched it, and I mean, for that being a precursor to Big Biting Pig, hell, I mean, I thought it was a really good movie. I mean, it scared it creeped me out, and at the time I was still living in Hopkinsville at my mom and stepdad's house, and my mom was very okay. So I grew up in an Assemblies of God, family, even though I'm a Methodist now, but she was always very leery about me playing rock music in the house, watching scary movies or anything, because her and my mama, God rest her soul, they were like, "Now, Andy, you don't need to be watching or listening to that stuff because that opens up the door to demons. Opens up the door to demons." So I'm sad to say, hopefully my mom doesn't listen to this, but mom, sorry. I watched a bunch of scary movies down in my room and all that, so, my bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
I watched that. I watched Maniac on the Loose, watched Goat Sucker, watched Widow. Um, yeah, and then obviously I made the move to Madisonville at that time and stuff. So but anyways, yeah, I really liked the third floor, and I yeah, man, it was just a blast to watch. Now, is that on Tubi as well or YouTube?
that now currently the third floor is not available anywhere. I'll put that up on YouTube at some point so folks could see it because I mention it from time to time. For a long time, I didn't want anybody to see it because it's pretty rough. I mean, it was the first movie I ever did, and we didn't know what we were doing. I think it shows. It's pretty rough. It was the first thing we ever did, so we didn't know what we were doing, and I mean, every aspect of that is there. You know, when I watch it, there's something like the script. I mean, that script probably should have been rewritten about a dozen times, but I didn't learn that until until after that movie. That yeah, we need to tighten up the scripts and stuff. I think it's 100-minute movie, and it probably shouldn't be more than 60 or 70 minutes. So there's some fat in it, and a lot of the performances are kind of broad. And but that's me nitpicking it as a filmmaker when I watch it. But yeah, I'm gonna put that up on YouTube at some point so folks could see that if they want to. But as we record this, it's not available anywhere. But I will fix that sometime in the near future and make that available. When it's available, it'll be on YouTube.
Oh, that'd be awesome, man. I'd love to be able to watch that movie again because Hellfire, I mean, let's see, that was '09 when I watched it. So yeah, I mean, we're going on 16 years since I last watched it. So yeah, it'd be great to be able to watch it again, man. Um,
Yeah.
I'm actually sad to say I don't know where my copies of the DVDs. I don't know where my copies went to. And I'm also sad to say I don't know where the mesh shirt disappeared to as well.
Oh,
After me and Megan had split up and stuff, I'm not sure what happened to the shirt. To be honest with you, people have asked me over time, do you still have the shirt? No. I was like, I don't know where the rocker bracelets went to. Don't know where the earring or don't know where the shirt went to. So but
well.
oh well. So the oh my god, I'm having such a blast rehashing all this stuff, man. A lot of people at work were actually kind of shocked that I did that. That I did that at one point in my life because obviously when I clock in, I'm down to business, very serious and all that. And you know, there's just some things people don't know about me. But yeah, I'm like, yep. Yeah, the reason it became known about the mesh shirt is because my first supervisor was Steve O'Reilly, and he had a brief cameo in "It Lives in the Attic," and
Oh yeah.
so he was the one that started to make it well known. And then he would also do the pelvic thrust that I would do, during filming and stuff and all that. And so yeah, thanks to him back in let's see, 2017 is when he he had started to make it known to everybody. So yeah. Anyways, but hell of a time, and throughout the course of time that I worked with you all, I mean, got to meet a plethora of awesome people and all that. Get to work with some good people, and but I do. So after you did the third floor, you said Maniac on the Loose was next. And like I stated earlier, that's my favorite Big Biting Pig movie of all. And I mean, hell, I'm not even in it, but that was like my favorite one. And the term ski mask gets used so much. To my understanding, I think some of our folks would play a drinking game every time the name ski mask was mentioned. They take a shot. So I would say
That'd be a good drinking game.
it would be a very good drinking game. Yeah, I don't drink very much anymore. We won't go into all the details, but you've seen me inebriated before, and
I have.
yeah, I don't get. Yeah, I make sure I don't get inebriated anymore. Just saying, because you never know what I'll say or do or whatever. So, but let me think here now. You mentioned about the time it takes to edit. Steve, what's about the average time it would take to edit a movie?
If I remember correctly, because I get a little rusty here because it's been we're 9 years away from the last time we made a movie, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it usually would take us about 6 months of editing.
Okay,
Long process. Yeah, editing's where the real work comes in.
sure. I mean, I can only imagine, but I know I'm just a peon, but I mean, hell, yeah, whenever y'all had the final finished product and stuff, I mean, it always, in my eyes, it always looked really good. So, um, but now, and I do apologize, Steve. I know I kind of bounce back and forth. I'm definitely not a professional podcaster. I'm just, shooting from the hip. So, bear with me on that. I just started Grizzly's Cave about 2 weeks ago, so this is still new to me. But let me think here. So after uh, I always liked the notion that you and PJ would do. You would do one film one year, and then she would do the next film. Did that kind of help eat obviously that helped ease the workload and the stress and everything. Would that be fair to say?
Um, to an extent, yeah, to an extent. I mean, here's what happened with that. We did Maniac on the Loose. That's the very first Big Biting Pig movie, and it's one of my favorites too. I know it's your favorite. It's one of mine also. I love that movie. It might very well be my favorite as well. And after we did that, that's when PJ said she wanted to start writing her own scripts and for us to shoot her movies as well. Well, when she mentioned that, and she actually had a script ready to go, it was called Widow, and I had already written a script called Goatsucker, and we were already kind of planning on shooting that. And then we did something insane that year. We shot Goatsucker, and then we shot Widow back to back. We edited them at the same time after that, um, and released them as a double feature. That's why when I say we did 10 movies in 9 years, if
Sure.
you're wondering, well, where's that?
Hmm.
How'd you get 10 in 9 years? That's how we did two in one year. And it was insane. And we learned that's too much and never to do that again. But, it was also another learning experience. Everything's a learning opportunity. And, we gained more experience by shooting movies back to back that year and editing them at the same time. I mean, we doubled our experience in a year, and yeah, that was crazy. But from there on, we decided, yeah, we're not going to do that again. We'll just kind of rotate years. So I'll do one, then you do one. As far as the workload goes, it really didn't lighten the workload too much. I mean, one of us would write the script, and I guess that was a little bit of a load off of the person who wasn't writing it. But I mean, we both co-produced the movie. We were both involved in every aspect of shooting it. So, um, really, honestly, not a big workload off of the person who wasn't writing or directing, just because we were both so involved in every movie that we made.
Okay. Well, that definitely puts that definitely more into perspective and stuff. But yeah, see, I hadn't. Yeah, I didn't come around. Let me backtrack here. Megan had said something that y'all had done a double feature, and I was like, "Well, dang, that seems like an awful lot, you know." And I'm just an outsider looking in, and I know there were some Facebook posts whenever y'all would have the premieres and all that stuff, and I was like, "Okay, well, that's pretty cool." But yeah, folks, Goat Sucker, that is another awesome movie, and let me think here. And then Widow, well, uh, so Widow, the phrase, kind of like with Ski Mask and Maniac on the Loose, you hear this phrase, and Widow a lot. It's "I have to tell you." You hear that an awful lot,
Yes.
and Cindy Maples, who was the main character, who played the main character in that film, used to back when it was her birthday on Facebook, I would say, "I have to tell you," and then several periods, happy birthday, stuff like that. But yeah, Um, now, Goat Sucker. Now did y'all you filmed that obviously? I guess in the spring or the summer. I guess it was of '08.
uh, yeah, I believe it was '08. It was late summer. I think we shot that. I want to. I think it was 2 months. We shot in August and September. I remember we got real lucky with the weather. I always remember that because it was we only had one hot day where it was like 100 plus. But other than that, it was typically 80s. Goatsucker is shot outside during the day in the woods, the whole movie. So I always just remember we got real lucky with the weather because that could have been brutal.
I was actually going to ask how hot was the weather because you've been in Kentucky for a while now, and nowadays it seems like the summers you either get hot, you get humid, or you get both. So I was kind of
Yeah.
curious. Uh,
Oh, we got so lucky.
well, that's awesome, man. Did you have any Bigfoot sightings while filming?
No, we didn't.
Well,
Oddly enough, though, we had one weird thing happen though, because we filmed in the middle of the woods, and I mean the middle of the woods. I don't mean like behind somebody's house. I mean we were on ATVs to get to the location. I mean,
oh
you can
wow.
drive to a certain point, and then you can't drive a car beyond that because it's too rough.
Hmm.
So we had to get on four wheelers and drive a little further to get to the spot. So we're in the middle of nowhere. Well, while we're doing the editing and we're uh, watching a scene, two people in the middle of the woods, I'm telling you, a voice came over the audio that was not one of the two actors. It was just like a man's voice.
Hmm.
And that was strange because we're in the middle of frickin' nowhere. Usually something like that happens. It's, I can, it's, we're in a house or something. It's like, okay, we picked up something from outside because these microphones are strong. But
Hmm.
man, that was a little weird. No Bigfoot, but possibly a ghost. How about
Hmm.
that?
If I'm not mistaken, and definitely clarify this, but one of the movies that y'all made after Goat Sucker, it might have been Creepy Doll. It might have been the one right before it, but during I know on the DVDs y'all had like a commentary section and stuff and all that. And it seemed like you had said there was a weird occurrence that happened in the elevator. I guess it was of the very old hospital that used to be in Madisonville, where y'all used to
Oh
film
yeah,
some of your movies. Would you elaborate on that, please?
that movie was hell is full. It was our zombie movie,
Okay.
and we filmed several scenes in an abandoned hospital in Madisonville. It doesn't exist anymore. It's been torn down.
Right.
But the hospital, like 95% of that hospital was no longer in use. It's completely abandoned. But we got permission to shoot in there. And we shot many days in that hospital. And there were 4 floors in the hospital. And one day after shooting, the actors had left. Crew was packing everything up, and we got to the point where we were almost done. And I went ahead and said, the rest of the crew, you guys can go on home. I'll finish up here. So everybody left, and I was alone in that hospital, all alone, on the 3rd floor, coincidentally. and I was just packing everything up. I was probably there for about half an hour. Now, anybody who's ever been in a big, empty building knows if you can hear a pin drop in a place like that. So if somebody was up on that floor with me, if they take one step, I'm going to hear it. I don't care how far away they are. You can hear footsteps all over the place. But I was up there for about half an hour packing things up. It was clear I was all alone. So I put everything on a cart. By the time I was done, I put everything on a cart. I rolled it to the elevator. I got in, took it down to the 1st floor, and got out. And when I got out on the 1st floor, I was messing around with the stuff in the cart, taking it off and everything. And the weird thing that happened was while I was doing that, I heard a ding, like a well, the elevator door's shut, and all of a sudden the elevator's like starts moving. I could hear it moving, and I'm like looking at the panel above the elevator door, and I'm watching it goes from the first floor to the second floor to the third floor where I was, and then I hear a ding, like it stopped there. It was like somebody was on the third floor and had pressed that call button
Mm.
up there, but I know I was nobody else was up there. I mean, nobody else was in the hospital, so it dinged, and then that elevator started coming back down, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
Right.
So I'm on the first floor. I'm kind of near the exit, so I'm like, okay, if something weird's on there, I'm gonna bolt out of here.
Oh
So
God, yeah.
the elevator comes back down. The door's open. And it's just empty.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, that was kind of weird, and I didn't think too much else of it. I'm just like that was unusual, and I took everything outside. I was packing everything up, and I was kind of thinking in my mind. I was thinking, there's probably a logical explanation for this. Maybe the elevator just moves around on its own here or there. Maybe that it's I don't know. I was just thinking mechanically, the elevator. There's probably an explanation. The next day, when I came in the next morning, security had to let me in because that building was locked up and abandoned.
Right.
So a security guard came out there with me and unlocked the door for me, and I told him what happened. I told him about the elevator, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, this place is haunted." He's like, "Oh, so much stuff happens." He's like, "We're in here sometimes, and I'll hear doors shut." He's like, "I know I'm the only one here, and I'll hear doors shut, and I'll hear footsteps." And he's like, I'll go around trying to find out who it is." And he's like, "It's clearly there's nobody else here." Yeah, so yeah, and that was an old hospital. And I think it was built in 1938, and we were filming that in what was it, like 2009, I think, is when we were shooting there, 2009, 2010. So
Mm.
yeah, that was a creepy. That was being in a being in a empty hospital all by yourself was pretty creepy.
Oh, oh man, I can
But
only.
yeah, that was an interesting occurrence. Yeah, that was an interesting occurrence.
So I actually drive by that site where the old hospital used to be at because it's kind of on my way, to work and from work and whatnot. And yeah, God, that building's been torn down for a pretty good while, if I'm not mistaken. But just curious, did you start carrying salt, holy water, and a crucifix with you after that encounter happened?
I didn't. I never got any like evil vibes or bad vibes or anything like that. It was, I never had anything like that. It was just kind of a weird thing that happened. But I didn't, I never felt like it was anything bad or anything like that. Never got that vibe.
I got you. Let me think here. So no Bigfoot sightings for goat sucker, which is kind of
No, sorry.
that's kind of a bummer because being deep out. I mean, I've never seen a Bigfoot. But I am a Bigfoot enthusiast. I've read. I've watched all these documentaries. I've watched shows. I've read articles on KentuckyBigfoot.com. Apparently, Hopkins County is like a big hotbed for sightings. Allegedly, and I mean, take it for what it's worth. But so yeah, I had to kind of throw that in there. So let me think. So then there was Widow, and I really enjoyed. That movie was really incredible to watch. It was obviously different, from. And I think I've kind of realized that with PJ's movies, at like yours dealt with the scary monsters, hers was more like psychological. I mean, at least that's how it appeared to me. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yeah. Hers definitely had more of a psychological twist to them. Mine were a little bit more in your face. She always used to say that I was the creepy and she was the crazy, and that kind of sums up our movies a little bit.
Oh my gosh, that is too funny. Let me think. Now, so on the copy of Widow that I watched, they have the outtakes, which I did make the outtakes at Caretakers. coincidentally, I was the very first one. But in the outtakes for Widow, and I think there's been outtakes in other movies where Mr. Hudgins, you tend to slip and trip a lot.
Yes.
Are you a natural klutz?
Yeah, evidently, because as long as I can remember, I do tend to stumble a lot, and when I stumble, it's not unusual for that stumble to end up in a full out fall. So yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. My stepdad, God bless him, he's been married to my mom for, let's see, 27 years. That man could not take a step out in the backyard without stepping into some kind of pothole or just walking on flat ground and tripping and stuff. He'd be on the ground doing a somersault and everything. So I totally understand. It happens with that. Um,
Yeah. At least he had a pothole or something. I tend to trip over my own feet half the time.
Oh my gosh. So Hell is Full. I'm glad you said the name because man, the older I get, the more blanks I have. You know what I mean with my cognitive
Oh yeah.
processing and
No,
stuff. Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
You know, and it's sad.
I know just what you mean, youngster.
Yeah, let me think. Yeah, I just turned 39, and if it's this bad now, I can only imagine what it's going to be like later on in life.
Yeah.
I
Wait another 15 years.
oh, hellfire.
You've got all kinds of fun things to look forward to.
Oh man. So yeah, so whenever Hell is Full, after y'all got done with Hell is Full, that was the rap party that I met y'all at, and I was a little, I don't want to say intimidated. I guess it's just more so shy, you know, because I mean, generally I'm naturally a quiet person until I get to know you and feel comfortable around you, you know, and you know, just with anybody. And I think I was kind of just sitting to the side for a bit. Like I knew Tom Groves, I knew Karen, you know, because it was actually at their house back when they were together at the time. And let me think. I want to say it was PJ was actually the first person that kind of introduced herself to me and whatnot. She had said, "So Megan, who is this fella you have with you and stuff and all that?" Then Megan started introducing me, and then I think it was probably an hour or so later. I'd walked to the kitchen to grab a drink, and you were standing right in front of the cooler, and I'm like, "Oh, it's ski mask," you know. And I instead of just saying it, my first interaction with you was, "Excuse me, sir, I'm gonna grab something to drink." He's like, and you're like, "Oh yeah, yeah." You kind of stepped to the side, and I introduced myself and shook your hand, and then all of a sudden, you know, we talked. Crap, I forgot for how long, but we talked for a pretty good while. And then, of course, you know, everybody else had shown up and they'd come talk with you and all that. But I think we had some karaoke that night as well. And we'd watched, kind of watched the trailer for Hell is Full and got to meet some great people. And then that's when I also met the infamous Mark Cotton. And I got into,
Ah, yes.
oh God, Mark, if you're listening to this, I think the world of you, buddy. No, I'm not mad at you, so don't bother asking that question. But he sang "Peekaboo" by Devo, and uh, oh boy, what can I say about that? Uh,
Oh
that was
boy, it was it was entertaining yet intimidating.
I'm sitting there in that living room, and I'm hearing this man singing, and buddy, it's like he was staring right at you and Randy Hardesty, and Randy
Yeah,
Hardesty's a top notch guy. Uh, you know, hell,
wonderful actor.
wonderful
Yeah.
actor, wonderful human being. But
Yes.
I felt so bad for you and Randy sitting there on that couch while Mark's staring at you singing Peekaboo, and I don't know if it was the staring at you or the ha 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 part of the song that he was
Oh my
singing,
gosh.
but yeah, I was kind of yeah, I could kind of see you and him just kind of kept going y'all were kind of scooting in the opposite direction and whatnot, and I could just tell y'all were creeped out by that whole thing.
Yeah. For folks who don't know, Mark Cotton he worked crew for us on a lot of our movies. He's a very interesting, very nice guy, and yeah, he really channeled Devo there when he did that karaoke. Yeah, and he was Oh, yeah, he really. Yeah, that's the stuff that nightmares are made of.
It's not Freddy Krueger. It's Mark Cotton. When he sings Peekaboo.
You'll wish it was Freddy Krueger.
But on the flip side, at least Mark doesn't say bitch a lot like Freddy Krueger did. So
No, no,
um,
no. You don't have to worry about that. He doesn't curse much at all.
no,
I don't know if you know, but Mark Cotton now he owns the auction place in Dawson Springs, Kentucky. He
hmm
runs that auction house.
yes, sir. I've actually seen some videos of him doing it. I mean, buddy, I mean he's a natural. So uh,
He's great. Yeah,
yeah, I'm sad to say I haven't seen him in God. It's been several years. It might have been the premiere of It Lives in the Attic. That's actually kind of been the last time I've seen a lot of folks. Other than the run in that me and you had about 5 years ago and stuff. But
hmm
yeah, I haven't really seen a bunch of them folks. But yeah, Mark Cotton, really nice guy, real friendly. Um, fun. He's a funny guy too. And if you hear him laugh, that laugh is contagious. As soon as you hear him
yeah.
laugh, you just want to naturally laugh with him too. But yeah,
And
Mark.
his catchphrase is, "Are you mad at me?"
Yeah, yeah. I'd be having a discussion with him, and then all of a sudden he just pop off with, "Are you mad at me?" I'd say, "No, no, I'm not mad at you." But yeah, just really, really, really awesome, awesome guy. And
There's a great anybody who happens to have the Creepy Doll DVD. There's a great outtake where that features Mark Cotton. He was working. He was the boom man. He was holding the microphone, and he's a vegan. He's a staunch vegan, and finds he finds chewing sounds of meat to be just disgusting. But we're having to record audio of one of our actresses just chewing on barbecue, just slapping it around in her mouth and making the most disgusting sounds. And I put the camera on Mark during that because it was just audio, and he's like, oh, he's really struggling not to vomit. He's really his eyes are watering up, and he's just fighting it. Oh, it's so funny. Anybody who has the Creepy Doll DVD should revisit that sometime. It's a classic.
yeah. Oh my God, I remember watching that, and I mean, I about fell out of my chair. And I kind of felt bad for the guy because, as you stated, he is a very staunch vegan and stuff. But just the facial expressions he made, the fact he was looking away and everything, and then I think you all had provided the commentary on that too and stuff. And yeah, poor Mark, but yeah, that was pretty comical, I gotta say. Um, so let's see here. Creepy Doll. Now that's actually where I made my Big Biting Pig debut. I was originally supposed to be the security guard at like the end scene that was played by the late Marty Cook. God rest his soul, man. Marty was hell of a
Oh, great guy.
hell of a man. Yes, great guy, hell of a man. Funny, funny guy. He cracked me up in that scene, in his scene with Neil Valls in Hell Is Full. Uh, if it smells like piss, it tastes like piss, dumbass.
It's a classic scene. Yeah,
Yes, yes, sir.
he's one of the bumbling janitors. Yeah, it's a classic.
Right. But yeah, I was supposed to. I was originally cast as the security guard, but I don't remember what happened. I don't know if it was a scheduling conflict or something. But you and PJ and yourself had written in a spot for me and Megan, which was the couple running in the park. It's a very brief scene of us, but y'all wrote that in for us so we could still be a part of the film in some capacity, and for that, very grateful for that. And I do remember this. I was about 50 or so pounds lighter, so it was a lot easier for me to run. I was about 170, 175 pounds, and I'm wearing these windbreaker pants, a wife beater, and a bandana and stuff. And I got these buggy whip arms of mine because I was still trying to build my mass back up. But yeah, forgot how many scenes we did running and stuff, but I was like, yep, definitely got my cardio workout in, for this. But hell, it was a blast. And there was one outtake, and yeah, you may remember this, but where she bends over to tie her shoe, I have my hands in the air like I'm trying to get the get my hand cameras, we'll call it, perfect and all that. Then I kind of tap her butt, kick
Hmm.
her butt and stuff and all that. So yeah, yeah, that was definitely a lot of fun. But I gotta ask about that doll. Now, if I'm not mistaken, didn't she get like two different dolls? I think from someone that made those types of dolls. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we met a gal. We met a gal who made dolls like that, and PJ gave her the specifications of what she wanted. There's actually three versions of that doll.
Okay.
There's the normal doll. So yeah, and the creepy doll, it all revolves around a creepy doll.
Right.
And there's the normal doll that you usually see in the movie. Then there's a doll that is the normal doll kind of has like a fish eye, kind of an off eye, and then the second doll, there's a subtle change where both of her eyes are normal and kind of piercing in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a third doll, which is kind of has the monster face with fangs. So there's actually three of those dolls.
Okay. I'm glad you clarified that. I for some reason just thought there was two, but
Well,
yeah.
yeah, most people probably do because the doll number one and doll number two, it's just a subtle difference. Yeah.
Okay. I got you. And yeah, that folks, definitely watch the creepy doll, and you'll see what he talked about in regards to the monster. I don't want to spoil when it happens, but you'll see it. It's pretty. It definitely lives up to the name. Let's just say,
That's
definitely.
a creepy doll. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
And let's see. Then next was Spirit Stalkers, and
It's one of our most popular movies.
yeah, yeah, and I mean that would be my second one, because well, I've always been a fan of cryptozoology shows, ghost shows, and whatnot. At that time when you all, let me think, it was in auditions hadn't happened yet, but I had been watching Destination Truth, and for those that don't know, that was a show hosted by Josh Gates, and he traveled all over the world to investigate whether it was ghost sightings, cryptic monster sightings, and whatnot. Really good show, and so I was really psyched about this, and Spirit Stalkers. I mean, it's a hell of a movie. Steve actually plays one of the ghost hunters. He's the head ghost hunter of the crew, and just nails it, hands down. Um, and I'm actually a security guard, so I kind of redeemed myself a couple of years later. And for those of you that don't know, is during that time frame, I was finishing up time at Police Academy over in Richmond, Kentucky. And I remember this shot was on a Sunday, and I remember telling Steve, and I think I told PJ too. I said, "Yeah, yeah, no, that's fine. I just got to be on the road at hell, from Madisonville to Richmond. It's about a 4 hour drive. That's it. Traffic. Considering traffic and whatnot. I think we knocked that scene out in probably like a couple of hours, give or take. I mean, but it was a very intense scene with his name was Scott, but it was Scott, right? That played the.
Yeah.
Okay, I cannot remember his last name because God, it's been a long time since I've had any contact with him. But he, I have to restrain him in this scene because he's a father that just lost his daughter and his estranged wife. And then, of course, I don't get to be the guy that punches out Steve. It's Mr. Scott. So, and I'll jump to that here in just a second. But then I have to restrain Scott, and folks, there was no acting to that. That was a real lot. That was all real life right there, trying to restrain him. And he may not look like a big strong fella, but I mean he was like a pack of dynamite, and it took everything that I could to hold him back. Hell, if I'm not mistaken, I think during one of the shots I wound up falling back and hitting my elbow on that tile floor, And I was like, damn it. I was like, I don't need to go back injured and stuff to police academy because hell, I've got maybe a handful of weeks left. I want to get the hell out of this place, you know? So, but, uh, but
it's
yeah,
a
go ahead.
it's a very intense scene that Andrew plays the security guard in. Scott Cummings is his name. He's a fantastic actor.
Oh, hell
He's
yes.
so fantastic. That scene is so intense, and he's the one that amps it up to 11. He really nailed that scene, nails me with a punch in the face, and luckily Andrew was there to restrain him because it was an intense scene. He did so good. You did fantastic. That was a great little moment there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and one thing, and I'm going to point this out too, folks. I originally did not have any speaking parts for that. Everything that's said is ad libbed, but that was directions that Steve had given me to say. And during the restraining scene, I'm just ad libbing like, "Calm down, sir. Relax, chill out." All that was not planned at all. That was just completely ad libbed in and stuff. But honestly, from the storyline perspective, it seemed to make sense. But yeah, Steve
Yeah,
really
that was perfect because it was just natural. You were just
right.
you were just naturally saying what came to you. It was fantastic. That's a great scene.
Yeah, Scott Cummings. Yeah, and I apologize, I couldn't remember his last name, but he's also been in some other films with Big Biting Pig, and he's a really great guy, real respectful. Yeah, just every role he's had, he hit the nail on the head, and but
Yeah, he's great. He's just a great actor. Yeah, real good guy. Real good guy. I like him a lot.
do you have you seen or talked to him anytime recently or?
He reached out to me on Facebook a few months ago. So we had a little Facebook. Uh,
Are you there? Hello. Up. Hold on, folks. Let me. All right, folks, we are back. Sorry, do apologize for that. We lost signal. But anyways, we were talking about Mr. Cummings. So you said you had a Facebook interaction with him.
yeah, he reached out to me a few months ago. We had a short uh, Facebook interaction. He's doing good. It was nice to hear from him. I hadn't talked to him in a little while either. So yeah, that was just a few months ago. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely wish him the best. And let's see, we've had. Let me think here. Yeah, Spirit Stalkers was. God, if I remember, that was probably the biggest crowd that we had. At least since I got involved with the company. That I think that was probably the biggest crowd that turnout when it came to the premiere. I mean, was it not?
Yeah, that was the biggest. I think that was the biggest premiere we had. I think it sold out. Yeah, I think it was like a 400. I think that place carried had about 450 seats, and we were pretty well full. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I just remember almost every seat was occupied, or at least it looked like it was a completely packed house. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was really awesome. Um, but one of the things I'll say this is I really enjoyed the autograph sessions. People bring posters, shirts, DVDs, and stuff. Just being able to sign that was always an awesome thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Just
we did that at all of our premieres. So anytime we made a movie, we would have the movies were shot locally, and we would have a local premiere so that the cast and crew can come, and anybody in the town could come and see a movie that was made in their town. And at the end of the movie, we would always the most of the actors would usually come to the premiere, and we would have a little section for them to sit down and we sold DVDs, T-shirts, posters, so people could get those and actually go and have them signed by the cast. Which, yeah, I thought that was always a nice little touch to our premieres that people seem to enjoy. So yeah, I'm glad that we did that.
oh, absolutely. Now, we're gonna move to your. Actually, let me backtrack. So I mentioned about punching out Steve. So I'm pretty sure, and Steve, you can, like I said, jump in at any time. So when I first got involved well, actually, this is right before I got involved with Big Biting Pig. I'd watched Goat Sucker, and you see Steve is beating up on poor Randy Hardesty, and then I saw Maniac on the Loose.
Mm.
I kind of went in the wrong order, watching the films, but it was just whatever was available to me that I could borrow. And then in Maniac on the Loose, poor Randy takes another shot to the face, gets tied up and whatnot, and I'm like, dang, this Steve Hudgins is a daggum bully. I think somebody needs to have a fight scene with him and give him a run for his money. Well, and I had pitched the idea to you, and you're like, fight scenes. Well, if the script calls for it and stuff, and I was like, okay, and I kept pushing for it for years and stuff. And I think I forgot which film, but I was like, just give it up, Andrew. It's probably not going to happen. But we did kind of have a moment, when the It Lives in the Attic, and I remember you walked up to me, you said, "Well, you finally got your fight scene with me." I said, "Well, yes, sir, I did."
Yeah, he bullies me. I mean, you flat out bully me in that movie. He is the bully. I mean, I'm the nerd. He's the bully. He flat out bullies me. He was about to kill me. Yeah. So you got it.
Oh, hell yes. And again,
you got your wish.
I did get my wish, yes, sir. And I'm very honored I'm very honored to have been able to be able to share that moment with you. So I mean, it was definitely an honor and a privilege, sir. And again, I'm forever indebted to you on that. But I want to let's see. So after Spirit Stalkers came Lucid, which was was PJ's movie, and
Mm-hmm.
folks, here's another reason why you probably don't want your kids to watch this, because you see a bunch of grown adults in their underwear, nightgowns, for various scenes. Yours truly was wearing, which I'm not a barefoot person. I've always got to wear socks. So I was wearing socks, and I was wearing gray boxers, and I thought to myself, maybe I probably should have wore black boxers, because you definitely don't want people seeing your business and all that. But yeah, that. Oh my God.
But he didn't wear black boxers.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Hell, it was the old York building, if I'm not mistaken. We did one of the shots at. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I believe that's what it was. Yeah. And that was like not comfortable for you guys because that was a gravel floor, if I'm
yeah,
not mistaken.
yeah, there was gravel, and let me think. I was like in the second row, whatnot. I think I was standing behind Emily. Well, she's Emily Russell now, but at the time Emily Horde, and I mean, there were bodies everywhere, and that movie is definitely a real psychological thriller, and that's actually a film where Bill Johnson, and for those of you that are not aware, he played Leatherface. Now, Steve, it was in the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
Okay,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Leatherface was played by Bill Johnson, he's in our movie Lucid and The Caretakers.
so I did not have the luxury of getting to meet Mr. Johnson at the premiere. Now he was at the Lucid premiere, but he was not at the Caretakers premiere. The Lucid premiere, me and my first wife that I mentioned, we were separated at the time, so that's why I didn't make it. But Steve, could you tell the listeners, how you got in touch with Bill Johnson and just what it was like working with him?
Well, we used to do a lot of horror conventions to promote our movies, and at these horror conventions, there would be a lot of actors there from the old horror movies who would be signing autographs and what have you. So we actually, for Bill, we were actually introduced to him by the guy who was running the convention, and yeah, we just kind of hit it off and asked him if he'd be like to have a small part in Lucid, and he was game. And real nice guy, real nice guy, real easy to work with, very professional. He did a great job in Lucid, and when we were casting for our next movie after that, which is our vampire movie, The Caretakers, I knew I wanted him to be in that too, and he was really interested in being in it. So that was a no-brainer to bring him back for that. So yeah, it was real nice to work with him. You know, he's an icon in horror movies because he played Leatherface in the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and um, he's a super nice guy, very professional, easy to direct. I mean, you tell him what to do, and boom, he just does it on the first take. Just real nice working with him.
Yeah, I really thought he did a really great job, portraying the character of Paw Paw, and
Hmm.
not. So the scene where he's coming up from the kitchen floor or from the cellar or whatever, I know myself personally. I think at that time I was probably 230 or 240. I know I probably would have struggled to come, to climb up out of that now, and he's a lot bigger of a fella than I am.
Hmm.
Did he have any complications coming out of there?
He didn't complain. He just did it. So if he did, I wasn't aware of it. Yeah, he just did it.
Have since caretakers, have you seen or heard from him since then?
I haven't talked to him in a little while. Uh, I talked to him a few times, not long after the caretakers, and but yeah, it's been a little while since I talked to him. It's actually been a little while since I've talked to a lot of people involved in the Big Biting Pig movies.
Um, that mask that you wore in Lucid,
Hmm.
I'm really surprised you just didn't whip out a ski mask. That would have been a pretty, that would have been pretty awesome homage to Maniac on the Loose. I'm kind of surprised you didn't wear that, but that mask, man, when I saw you wear that, I was like, what the hell is he wearing? Good God, that is creepy, man.
Yeah, in Lucid, I played a nightmare, the Nightmare Man, just a guy who shows up in nightmares, and yeah, I just wanted him to be somebody creepy, and so I bought one of those clear plastic masks. It's a mask, but it's clear, so um, you could see my face behind it, but it kind of dilutes the features, so it's just
Mm.
this smooth plastic mask. I bought two. I bought one that's more of like a female. That one's pretty damn creepy too. We actually use that in It Lives in the Attic. That's
Mm.
what Shelley wore in the Club Fun scenes.
Right.
But I went with the male one, and it's just much more of a full clear mask. It's creepy. Yeah, those clear masks are just creepy.
Oh man, yeah. Which of course, obviously, I knew who it was during when we were doing the filming. Whenever I watched the film, I was like, it's kind of hard to tell that was you. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
you stand out. Obviously, in a crowd, in films, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, you definitely stood out. Well, let me backtrack. Yeah, you always stood out to me, but in the film, I was like, I'm thinking, as a viewer, I'm like, who the hell's portraying this? You know what I'm saying? And um, when I first saw that, I was like, what? I'm kind of curious what this character is. But then as I finally watched the whole movie, I was like, okay, now it makes a little more sense. Like you said, the Nightmare Man, so to speak, kind of Freddy Krueger-ish, but you're not killing people in their dreams and then killing, which in turn kills them in real life. So
Right.
I,
No,
I,
just it's
mhm.
it's just in the dreams, and it's just me being very lewd and creepy.
Yeah, man. And the twist and all the movies that you all made, it was like, holy crap! Like, heck, going back to Maniac when Ski Mask, meets his fate. I'm like, okay, I was not expecting that. Okay, yeah, yeah. I was like, that's definitely throws a. I don't want to say a curveball, but definitely gives a twist in the movies, and that's one of the things I've always enjoyed, about the Big Biting Pig movies. But now, in caretakers. Yeah, you had mentioned about Mr. Johnson, but you also had Joe Estevez as well, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we actually did a Kickstarter for that to try to raise a little bit of money to try to get some folks in there who might be recognizable. And we got Bill, and we had enough money to get one more person. And we really ran into a lot of trouble getting somebody because we shoot non-union. non-SAG.
Right.
So anybody who was with SAG pretty much was ineligible. I talked to a lot of actors. It was pretty neat the process. I talked to anybody who saw the movie Christine, the guy who played Buddy Rafferty. I talked to him. He was interested, but he was SAG, so he couldn't do it. I talked to the sole survivor of Friday the 13th, Adrienne King,
Okay.
the the sole survivor of the original Friday the 13th. She is like the sweetest lady. She is so nice. I met her at a convention and we kind of stayed in touch. And I was hoping maybe she would do it, but she's SAG, so she couldn't do it. And I just kept running into that over and over. I mean, I talked to a lot of folks who were interested but couldn't because they were SAG. And PJ had met somebody at one of the conventions who made a lot of movies and asked him for anybody who might be non-SAG. And he mentioned Joe Estevez, who is SAG, but he there's like a clause in SAG that you can exercise that'll allow you to do non-union movies, and he was one of the few who had actually exercised that clause, so he was eligible. And yeah, we were able to get Joe Estevez, who, if folks don't know, is Martin Sheen's brother, Emilio Estevez's uncle, Charlie Sheen's uncle. He's part of the Sheen family. He looks just like Martin Sheen. He sounds just like Martin Sheen. We could have just said Martin Sheen was in the movie and everyone would believe it. I mean, he looks just like him, sounds just like him. But yeah, it was great having Joe Estevez. That guy is so nice, so friendly. Him and Bill Johnson really hit it off because they were in all the scenes together.
Mm-hmm.
And he just shared so many interesting stories about all the acting he's done, and his brother, his relationship with his brother, and he's actually in a few scenes in Apocalypse Now, playing Martin Sheen when Martin Sheen wasn't available. He actually, because he looked so much like him, he actually came in and played a few of those scenes.
Oh wow.
So the stories he told were really, really fun, really interesting. Super, super nice guy. It was a pleasure to work with him.
It was, yeah, man. Yeah. When I first heard him, I was like, oh my god. I mean, that sounds just like Martin Sheen. I mean, I was like, wow. And I thought, gum. I'm like, Steve and PJ really struck gold. Not only getting Bill Johnson, but also getting Joe Estevez for this. It was kind of a bummer again that Bill wasn't at that premiere, but also it was a bummer that Joe wasn't at that one because it would have been nice to have gotten to meet him and stuff and all that. Um,
Yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah.
so for the listeners that don't know, so SAG is Screen Actors Guild. For those that don't know, um, and yes, they are, and I know just very very like tip of the iceberg, I guess you could, or very minimal information, but yes, they are union. And I know there's a lot of places that are not very much fond of the unions, but that's a whole different topic for another day. But okay, now that makes a little more sense then, and I'm glad you had clarified that about with the people that are with the Screen Actors Guild and all. I did not know that. I thought if you were an actor or actress, you could pretty much do whatever you want to, but I did not realize that they were uh, I don't want to say forbidden, but where they couldn't be in independent films. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're not supposed to do that. They can run into problems with their union if they do that. So, and any actor who's going to be making a lot of movies typically winds up joining SAG because most of the big budget movies will not employ actors for speaking roles if they are not a member of the union. That's just part of the deal. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
union. So, and then also part of it, you're not supposed to do non-union movies. So, yeah. So if they're involved in the union as a no-budget filmmaker who is making non-union movies, it makes it difficult to cast any of those folks, even if they want to be in it, which many of them did.
Oh man, that's kind of a bummer.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
definitely a bummer. But yeah, caretakers. Had another movie had a blast in. Got to play another heavy. Or got to be a henchman. Got to shoot somebody. and that's where I met Ben Johnson, and you and PJ referred to me and him as the twins. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, that was back then when I was clean shaven, which of course I have a beard now. And now the older I get, I could definitely see why y'all would call us twins at that point. But uh, Ben was uh, Ben was really awesome, really awesome to work with. Really cool guy. I've told the story when I first met him. I was like, "Gosh dang it, who's this dude sizing me up and all that?" And I'm like, this is a burly looking fella, and he's gonna probably, I'm thinking, okay, is he just gonna kick my hind end, just out of the blue? And I'm like, am I gonna have to protect myself? But then I realized he was just staying in character, and buddy, he stayed in character that whole film, and but behind the scenes, really nice guy, really respectful. He we we met our fates sadly in that film, and that's where I had my first outtake with you all. I had stumbled on that one of them gravel paths or whatever, and I fell down or whatever. But yeah, I was like, "Come on, guys, making me the very first outtake." Jeez, I, I, I mean, I felt honored. I felt honored, but I was like, "Gosh, dang, this is kind of a joke on me, just a little bit." It seems like.
But I believe he stayed in character, even just doing the whole fall and everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think y'all wound up having to bleep some of it out and stuff and all that because I wound up swearing. I think that's what even made it more funny because at that time I rarely ever cussed or used any form of profane language. But let let me think here. So, um, hmm, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, you guys were so cool in that.
Oh God,
The
yeah.
the three of you guys, the three of the tough guys. Yeah, you guys were so cool. And you had I mean, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but what the hell? You guys had such cool death scenes, and yeah, you guys were neat in that. I'm glad you guys were available for those parts. I'm glad you guys met because I know you wound up going on to become friends, and so that's really cool.
Oh hell yes. Yeah, man. Yeah, just a great guy. We did
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, we kind of kept in touch for a handful of years, and then after me and Megan had split, we kind of fell out of touch. We actually reconnected about 5 months ago, and so yeah, it's just been kind of just picking up where we left off, and yeah, I've met his son, and I've told his son when we first met, he got a kick out of that, and I've mentioned it to other people too. But yeah, Ben's just a stand-up guy. He's actually going to be God, God forbid anything happens, but he's actually going to be a guest on the Cave, believe Tuesday afternoon. So yeah,
Oh, awesome. That'll
yeah,
be fantastic.
oh
That'll
yeah,
be so cool.
yes sir. Let me think. So
I'm related to him, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's my second cousin.
I'll be dang.
He's
No,
my mom's cousin.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, he never. No, I did not know that. Oh,
Yeah,
that.
his
Go
his
ahead.
his dad, um, his dad and my mom's mom are brother and sister.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, so we're second cousins. He's cousins with my mom. That makes him my second cousin. Yeah, so I've known him my whole life.
Speaking of family, now your nephew, Michael. I have not seen him in many years, but man, he really respectful kid. I mean, he's not a kid now, obviously. He's a grown adult, but
Yes.
really good actor, really funny, real friendly, real professional. He actually had a main role in Spirit Stalkers. I forgot to mention that, and I really thought he did.
Mhm.
I thought he did a great job, and he also had a main role in Lucid as well as Caretakers, and just real respectful kid. He's kind of quiet at first, but when I got to know him a little bit more, he was just easy to talk to, easy to get along with. So, you got a good nephew there, boss. So,
He's awesome. He's one of the best people in the world. He's
yeah,
awesome,
yeah.
and he's a very talented. He's a wonderful actor. Interestingly enough, uh, his name is Michael. Michael and I are the only two people who have been in every single Big Biting Pig movie.
Wow.
including PJ. She missed out on Goatsucker. She's a picture on the wall in Goatsucker, but otherwise she's not in it.
Right.
Whereas Michael is actually in a scene in every single one. He actually is the Goatsucker's hands. Anytime you see the Goatsucker's hands in Goatsucker, that's Michael.
Yeah. I actually did not know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's been in every single movie. Yeah,
How's he doing nowadays?
doing great. He's doing great. He's engaged. He's had a great job, and he's engaged to Samantha Shoulders, who you might know
Mm-hmm.
from some of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's doing fantastic. That's another thing. He met his fiancee on the set of The Caretakers, and that's another little thing here. When we started making these movies, we never realized what happened is the relationships people have made through meeting on our movies. Like you were mentioning, you and Ben, and Michael met his fiancee there. Um, Luke Short and Jessica Short, now they're married. They met on the set of the Spirit Stalkers.
Yeah.
So many people have made romantic relationships or long lasting friendships by meeting on our movie sets, which is pretty damn cool if you think about it.
Oh, absolutely. And I got to throw his name out there too. But James Gibbs. Um,
Yeah, and James. Yeah.
James met him in 2010 at the Pigathon that y'all had. It was Halloween of 2010, and that's how I met him. And then it didn't take long. Me and him, became pretty good friends. I'm sad to say that I have not. We kept in touch over the years through Facebook and all that, but like I haven't been over to his house since. Oh hell, it was like a week or two before the shutdown happened. I'd actually stopped by his house after I got off work. I was going to give him and Debbie a wedding invitation, but I told her, I said, I can't stay for long. I've got to get back home. But of course, that didn't really happen. I wound up staying there another hour, 2 hours, whatnot, just kind of catching up because at that point it had been almost a year since I'd last been at their house because James is a avid wrestling fan and he would have get-togethers every month at his house because he had a Roku and we would watch the pay-per-views and some of the other folks that were in the films had come as well. But generally, it was me, James, and at the time Neil Vowles, who's uh, I have before he moved to Virginia. We would be the main three. Sometimes Timothy Blair would come, and these guys that I've mentioned, folks, they've all been in the Big Biting Pig movies as well. And I'm sad to say I haven't seen or heard from Neil. Well, take that back. Reached out to him here and there on Facebook, but I haven't seen him since before he moved to Virginia. So, but to my understanding, he's doing really good, and definitely wish him the best, and definitely hope we can cross paths again down the road. But yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, like you said, relationships, friendships, that develop because of what you and PJ created. So I mean, that's really an awesome thing. Samantha. Now, I didn't officially meet her. Let me think. It was actually the day that I auditioned for the Bradley character for It Lives in the Attic, and then I knew who she was. I just didn't really know her, and then we had worked together in the Young Frankenstein musical in the summer of 2016 because me and her and a bunch of other people, we were extras for a lot of musical numbers and excuse me. And yeah, Samantha's she's a sweetheart, and her and
Yeah.
Michael are definitely a great pair together. Hopefully they tie the knot soon, but I mean they're still young
Yeah, they
too.
will. They're good. Yeah, they're good. They'll be together forever. They're awesome. They're a perfect couple. Yeah.
Oh God, absolutely. Let me think. So there was the caretakers, and forgot to mention this fella's name, but he's been in several of y'all's films. But Nick Faust. Uh,
Oh yeah.
oh my God, just really nice guy, real sweet individual, respectful, funny as well. Just out of the blue, he's sometime one of the things he did. It was when we were filming that scene for Spirit Stalkers. It was right before you were going to say action, and it was kind of not letting people back there that didn't have identification, et cetera, or if they were next to kin. But Nick, Mr. Faust, if you remember this, hopefully you get a kick out of it. But he had walked up to that podium that I was standing behind, and he had his sunglasses on, and he took his sunglasses off. And he said, and I quote, "Do you know who I am?" Oh my gosh, I swear that interaction has stood with me to this very day, and it's been, th- 13, 14 years since we shot for that. But yeah, Nick was really awesome, and he was incredible. I really liked him in Maniac on the Loose and all that, and yeah, he just a really swell guy. Um, but he did a hell of a job in Caretakers, and just
Mhm.
the monologue that he had at the start of that film, his voice and all that. I was like, gosh, he sounds real ominous, at the start of
Yeah,
this, and I just thought he was really.
I loved him in that. Yeah, he really nailed that role. He really did a fantastic job with that. And yeah, he's Nick's been around forever. Most people don't know how much experience he had. He's directed so much theater. He's directed everybody. I mean, he doesn't talk about it and stuff, but like in a conversation or something, he'll just. I was talking to him one day, and he's like, "Yeah, when I was directing Tom Berenger and Stella, after," and I'm like, "What? You directed Tom Berenger?" Like, "Oh yeah, yeah." And so anyhow, I was like, and there's so many people like that he's worked with and directed, like who's gone on to win Oscars, and he used to teach acting at Tulane, so he's got so many people that he's worked with and directed and acted with. It's really nice that we were able to get him for a few of our movies. All of his roles are extremely memorable. He's a great actor. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. And I want to say, I think he made an appearance at it was the rap party for the Creepy Doll, and that was like when I first met him, and just he excuse me, he just was. I mean, just so polite. Like the conversations we had, it would have been. I mean, it would have been like that we had known each other for many, many years. I mean, that's just how welcoming, he was, of me, and hell, and I'm just a newbie, with you guys, and just overall, just a really great guy. I had mentioned Cindy Maples earlier. How's she doing?
Yeah. Again, I haven't talked to her in a long time either. So I really can't say, but boy, she's a fantastic actress, and
Oh
I'm
yes.
so glad we were able to get her in everything that she was in with us. But yeah, like so many other folks with Big Biting Pig, I just haven't talked to her in a little while. I hope she's doing all right. But yeah, she's such a good actress.
Her husband, Rusty James, for those that don't know,
Yeah, Rusty.
Rusty. Oh my God, he was such a funny guy. I met
Oh,
him.
he's hilarious. Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir. There was a film, not a film, sorry. Those two were in a play in Evansville that me and Megan had went to. This was about a month or so before we got married, and after you know this, but after the programs for our listeners, usually you get a chance to meet and greet with the characters and whatnot, shake hands and all that. And he saw me and he looked at me. He said, "And who is this with my Megan?" And I introduced myself to him and stuff, and really nice guy. And then when I mentioned that I was her fiance, he said, "Fiance." I cannot for the life of me remember the name of that program, but man, I mean, it was just really awesome. It was one of those programs where it was like, you only had like four, maybe five characters, give or take, but that was it, But everybody in that program really nailed it. But Cindy and Rusty, they were just great, great people. But yeah, I haven't had much contact with them in many years. I probably ought to get back on the Facebook and reach out to these folks. That might not be a bad
Yeah, I
idea.
guess we both should because I'm saying the same thing.
Let me think. So let's see. Caretakers, yeah, man. And I'm gonna give a shout out to April Larray. She she was.
Mm.
I haven't seen her in a while either, but yeah, she was just really. She did a really awesome job playing the antagonist, of the film, and she was very creepy, but definitely a very good choice for the vampire, and without spoiling too much. But yeah, she did really awesome in that film. Oh, I mean, hell, everybody did.
Oh
That
yeah,
hat,
I loved her. I loved her in that. Yeah,
that hat that you wore, that fedora. Do you still have that hat?
I do.
Okay,
Yes,
okay, yeah, that
I
tribute.
absolutely do. It's in a closet somewhere, but yeah, I do.
Yeah, thanks to you, us pulling over, we wound up meeting our fates. Thanks a lot. And then you brought that dang albino woman with you, and then decided
Yeah,
to. Yeah, thanks a lot. By the way.
she's trouble. She's trouble.
Her husband, Luke, he actually apparently worked at Clark for a short time. He'd worked a different shift than I did, and the shift he was working on, I went in to work some overtime a couple of years back. He's not with our company anymore, but we had kind of bumped into each other, just kind of brief, hey, how's it going, et cetera, et cetera. But definitely wish both him and Jess the best if they happen to listen to this episode. Let's see.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
so then after caretakers was Francis Stein, and that was PJ and that hair. I mean, and that's not a
Mm.
knock on her. I mean, she, and if people happen to watch Lucid, she dyed her hair red for that for Francis Stein. She had black hair with that little bit of a white streak and stuff, and I mean, that was a different kind of role for me because I was a professor, and y'all weren't used to seeing me, dressing up, in dress clothes and wearing, fake glasses and stuff. I was like, okay, I got to think of something for this role here. So I had some fake glasses that I just happened to have on hand, and yeah, that was a different experience for me, but I really enjoyed it and stuff. I mean, granted, I have like a 1 second, appearance on a monitor, but it was still great to be a part of that. And trying to think, Hellfire, there was something else, but damn it, I'm drawing another blank, Steve, and I'm not. God Almighty, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
but
Yeah, but yeah, that was Frankenstein, where you got to show your acting chops as the professor, and yeah, that was a good one. That was kind of our that was our mad scientist movie. PJ wrote that and
yeah,
directed it, and yeah, that was a fun movie. I'm not gonna give any spoilers or anything. I'm
sure.
just gonna say that's got in my opinion, it's the best ending to any of our movies.
Oh my God, yeah. When I saw that ending, I was like, Hellfire. I'm like, I definitely was not expecting that, but yeah, definitely awesome ending. Let's see. Then, well, then we get to the final one. It lives in the attic. Um,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, man, just I don't know. It was something about that role y'all gave me. It just helped me dig down and bring back out the old energy and stuff and all that. Because I was a well, like I said, when you first met me, I was a young, immature kid and stuff and all that. But obviously with time, comes wisdom. But yeah, man, just your character that you played, you played it to a T. James, the guy,
yeah, James. We didn't mention James.
oh my
Yeah,
God.
he's dressed in a full like latex suit and mask with a zipper mouth. Yeah,
Oh my God! And the sad part to say is, I think he may still have that outfit. I'm not really sure, but
I hope so. I hope that still exists.
oh my God, James just very laid back man. You could talk to him about anything. I mean, we're far apart on certain things, but there are things we got so much in common, and just real stand up guy. He's always been good to me, and I've got nothing but really good things to say about him. And he had the which he still, to my understanding, I believe he still has that long Fabio looking hair, whatnot. And and I think that's what made his character so unique in It Lives in the Attic. Um,
Yeah, for folks who don't know, James played. Yeah, I mean, you and James were a duo in that. He was kind of your leader.
right.
You were his heavy. Yeah, you were his tough guy.
Yeah. I may not have looked like a tough guy wearing the fishnet shirt, and the terrible dance moves and stuff, but I mean, it push
Oh,
come
you did.
if put
You did.
okay, okay, good to know. Thanks. I yeah, man, just everybody in that film did awesome. Just it was actually a bummer when there was no auditions the following year, but then I guess as time wore on, I kind of realized, well, I guess that might be it. If
Yeah, we had initially planned on just taking a year off because we had been going so hard for so long. We needed a little break, and we decided to take a year off. And yeah, that year wound up just becoming another year, and yeah, I wound up moving on to books from there. So I wound up becoming fully immersed in that, and yeah, so the movie Big Biting Pigs just kind of came to an end.
well, I'm sure you've been asked this many times over the years, but has there ever been, which obviously in 2020, what, from 20 to 20 to maybe 2022, obviously with the pandemic and stuff running crazy, which I mean, COVID's going to be a thing, till the end of time. But so obviously, I understand why there wouldn't be filming during those years. Has there ever been talk about resurrecting Big Biting Pig for another run or another movie or anything like that, or is it pretty much a done deal?
It's pretty much a done deal at this point. Yeah, I mean, after a couple years, we started kicking around an idea for if we did another movie, and PJ had actually started writing a script. We were actually going to do a sequel to the Creepy Doll, and so she had been working on that script, and we had kicked it around a little bit, but we never wound up doing it. I just don't think. I just don't think both of us were ready. If she was ready, I wasn't ready to get back into it. And then I started writing books. And once I started writing books, I kind of just got fully immersed in that. And that's where my focus was then and continues to be because I'm writing full time now.
Right now, I've seen your posts. Now, it's like a scary stories podcast. Is that correct?
Well, I write books.
Okay.
Um, my specialty right now is I write short horror stories, and I kind of put enough short stories into one book where it winds up becoming a full length book that consists of usually between 18 to 25 scary stories. And then I release it as a book. Then I do the audiobook. I record the audiobook myself, and I release the audiobook. And I figured, well, since I have the audio of these individual stories that make up my full audio book, why don't I do a podcast and release each story individually on a podcast, just so people can listen to a story at a time? And
Hmm.
that's the podcast. It's just basically me telling the scary story. I do 4 episodes a week.
Okay. Now what is the name of the podcast and what platforms can it be found on?
It's called the Maniac on the Loose Scary Stories Podcast, and you can find it on any major platform. Or just go to my website, maniacontheloose.com, and there's a link there. Links to everything I do are at my website.
Awesome. That man, that sounds really awesome. Now you said you've been doing this for a good number of years now.
I released my first book in 2018, and it's 2025 as we record this. So yeah, 7 years,
So
and
go ahead.
I'm very prolific. So like last year, I think I released 9 books last year. So I write a lot.
That's awesome, man. That is really awesome. Uh, there was something else I was going to say, but I'm sure it'll come back to me at some point. But how is PJ doing? Because like with everybody else, after he lives in the attic, I kind of fell out of touch with and stuff. How's she doing nowadays?
I think she's doing pretty good. Yeah, I think she's doing pretty good. I don't talk to her as much as I used to, but we do stay in touch, and usually don't go more than a few months without saying something to each other. But yeah, she seems to be doing well.
And folks, if you've never met her, PJ Woodside, she is a great, she is a really great woman. And if you ever decide to pursue acting and stuff, if you ever get the opportunity to work with her, I mean, it is an honor and a privilege to be able to work with her. She's very respectful. She'll critique, give good critiques, and in any way that you need help, she will definitely help you out. Same thing with Steve as well. Thought I better throw that in there too, boss man. So I'm not trying to say,
Well,
well, f this guy.
well, PJ still like directs plays, and she does shows, and I don't anymore. I'm like fully writing and not doing much else other than that. So yeah.
Well, I should mention this. So, I mentioned James, and get with your character of Ski Mask. He did write a short story many years ago, and it was back in 2011. And mine and your characters eventually clashed at the very end, and
Yes.
there never was a clear deciding factor in the battle, but my character wound up standing tall at the end of crap. I can't remember what the name of the damn
I
thing
can't
was.
remember it either, but
But
yeah.
yeah, it was like Survivor mixed in with Gladiator or whatever you want to whatever analogy you want to use and stuff. But yeah, we had our epic clash, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh god, I'm envisioning this in my head. I'm like, hell, this could be another. Here's our movie. Yeah,
Yeah, that was a fun story.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, ski masks. Yeah, your character was getting the upper hand on me, and then I think it was Mark Cotton's character had thrown some kind of explosive or whatever, and it kind of
Yeah, some kind of bomb went off. Yeah,
oh,
and turned things in your favor.
oh my god, damn it, Mark! You just got to ruin stuff, man.
Yeah, what can you do?
And there was a funny story, which I don't think you knew about this, but at the caretakers premiere, um, you all had me, Ben, and Luke, and I think Craig Angel. I think we all had a table for our little crew and stuff. And at some point, when the fans were coming to get autographs, this woman looked at Ben and she said, "You were the muscle of the group and stuff." I turned and stared at him and looked because I'm sitting in between the both of them, and I mean they just had a field day with this, and I'm like, oh hell no, 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 no. I mean, and I mean Ben, he was saying stuff like, well, Andrew, I do tricep dips and extensions, build my tris up because I had switched from I guess you would say a bodybuilder style workout to just doing straight up powerlifting, compound lift, workouts instead. So I was actually a little bit smaller. I think I probably lost about 10 to 20 pounds from when we filmed Caretakers to when the premiere actually
Oh
happened.
wow.
And,
Okay.
and I just switched up my workout routines and stuff. But yeah, oh, they had a field day with that, saying, "Oh, Ben was the bigger guy and this, that, and the other." I was like, "Oh, hell to the no on that." But yeah, yeah, yeah. That really took a stab at my pride there for a little bit. But yeah, he God, I'm actually going to bring that up whenever he's a guest on the show. I think he's actually going to come in person, so that'll actually be pretty cool. So, but yeah, man, just yeah, Ben and Luke were great. They were fun to work with, and Craig Angel, hell of an actor. I mean, he played that
Yes, he
role
was
to a
great too.
T.
Yeah.
Biggest thing I liked, he's just casually standing there smoking a cigarette, just having a time and stuff. And I'm like, man, that's just perfect character work.
I love that scene. I'm glad you brought that up. I just love that scene in the caretakers with with Craig. Who folks who haven't seen it, Craig is kind of the boss man of you and Ben's characters, who are the tough guys, and Luke Short, who we mentioned briefly earlier. He's in a bad spot. He's about to meet his fate, and it's just it's you guys just all did such a good job with that scene, and it just looks really cool the way Craig reacts. Well, I'm not giving much away because this is the beginning of the
Sure,
movie, but
sure.
Luke gets killed. Andrew kills him, but it just all looks really cool. They bring him back to the trunk of a car and open it up. It's lined with garbage bags. So Luke sees then that he's about to be killed, and his acting is fantastic. He
Oh
really
yeah,
looks scared for his life.
yeah.
Ben throws him in there, throws a couple of punches which weren't scripted. It was perfect.
Mhm.
And then Andrew finishes him off. And I think it was April's husband at the time, Richard, who was doing crew, and he did that little flicker with the light to make it look like the gunshots, the gun muzzle,
Oh yeah.
and we added the sound later, and then Craig just we shoot it from the front of Craig where we see his expression as the guns go off, and he's just so nonchalant, like yeah, just another day at the office.
Right.
Oh, I love that scene. You
Yeah.
guys were all so great in that. I love it.
Oh man, and hell, your role in the film was just fantastic, and Jessica just she was dynamite in that film, and uh, for that one scene that you mentioned, is almost like Sopranos type. You know what I mean? I
Very
mean,
much. Yeah.
you know what's crazy? I just now finally watched The Sopranos a few months back. Actually, I'd seen all these clips of it on TikTok and the Facebook clips and stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna watch this show. Well, I wound up getting the Max app and stuff and all that, which it's got other movies and shows and stuff you can watch. But I finally watched that. I was like, oh my god, this was a. I mean, it was a
You didn't
really
you
good.
didn't know what you were missing, did you?
Hell no, I sure did not. I sure did not, man. But again, none of that would have been possible if it hadn't been for you and PJ, and and I'm forever indebted to you both of giving me the opportunity to be a part of this. And I mean, it sucks that it's pretty much done, but the old saying, "Never say never." I know that phrase
Sure.
is pretty
Yeah.
popular,
Never
but
never say
never say
never. Yeah.
never. I
Sure.
mean, hell, if not that, it'd just be nice to have a big biting pig reunion.
We should at least do that at some point. Yeah.
I mean, hell, we could talk about old stories like pretty much what we've been doing.
Mhm.
Hell, fire. We've been talking for over 2 hours. Damn it, that's awesome.
Oh boy.
Oh man. So
And we haven't even mentioned wrestling.
haven't even talked about wrestling yet. So, I will ask you that you talked about a elimination chamber before the recording had started. What did you think of the pay per view?
I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was I thought it was a blast. I was not expecting the heel turn there at the end with John Cena. Totally caught me off guard.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Gosh, they did that wonderful. I mean, as you know what, you and I have done live theater, so I think wrestling fans who have performed live on a stage before know what live theater is. Maybe have more of an appreciation for the acting aspect and just performing live than your regular wrestling fan might. And that was theater, and they nailed it.
Oh
It
God,
was
yeah.
it was it was fantastic.
And for the listeners, that was actually the first WWE pay per view that I have watched since 2019, and I got to say I was very very impressed with it. It's even nicer now that Vince McMahon's not in charge of the company and all that other stuff. It was just a much better product, and the Cena heel turn when it happened, I was like, oh my god. I was like, that really shocked me. I guess it would make sense because this is going to be the last year of his career. I mean, he's had a 23-year career with the WWE, and I mean, what better way to end it than end it as a heel, which people push for God, since like 2005, 2006, you know. So, and The Rock, The Rock, was a incredible wrestler, and he's a really great actor too. So, he hit the nail on the head too, with his promo and everything that was done. So, I'm definitely looking forward.
They nailed it. Yeah,
Oh
they just
yeah,
nailed it, and nobody saw that coming because everybody's thinking, well, this is because John Cena's on his farewell tour. This is his last year,
right.
and everyone's thinking, well, he's not going to turn villain in his last year. He's making a tour where he's saying goodbye to everybody. He's not going to turn villain, so nobody was expecting it.
Yeah.
Completely unpredictable, and boy, they caught us all off guard, and they nailed it. It was so good.
Yes, it was. The only thing that I was disappointed in is that the fans weren't throwing trash in the ring like when Hulk Hogan turned heel back in 1996 at the Bash at the Beach pay-per-view. When that happened, that ring was flooded with trash. They didn't do that for this when Cena turned heel. I was really expecting that, but yeah,
Yeah, they didn't. I think they may have been in shock.
probably, yeah, I'd say so. Uh, I actually did not know that you had that you were that you were a regular wrestling fan. But again, me.
It's new. It's you know what I when I was a kid, I used to watch wrestling when I was lived in Chicago. It was around 1980
Right.
when I was about 10 years old. I lived north of Chicago, and this was before all the territories were combined,
Hmm.
and it was still territorial. I just started watching AWA wrestling
Yeah.
when I was a kid, and they had most of the big names who wound up becoming big in WWE, well, WWF at the time.
Right.
Hulk Hogan was there. Um, uh, gosh, Jesse Ventura.
Hmm.
They had Sheik Adnan Al Casey, Jerry Blackwell, Baron von Raschke. Who else did they have?
Uh,
Adrian Adonis would be there. Kurt Hennig.
hmm.
I even got to see Kurt Henning's dad once,
Oh
and
God.
Mad Dog Vachon. So many of those old guys, and it was I enjoyed it as a kid, and back then it was weird because it was on once a week, and the show was maybe like an hour, and the show was stupid. The wrestling matches were just basically the name guys versus jobbers. They weren't good matches,
Right.
but they would basically pitch their monthly show that had all the name guys against each other.
Right.
And if you wanted to see the monthly show, this is before pay-per-view. If you wanted to see the monthly show, you had to go watch it live. And we would. Like every month we would go to Chicago, a bad part of Chicago on the south side,
Oh
to
jeez.
the International Amphitheater, and we would see the show. And I would often stand close to the dressing room to get autographs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I got to talk to a lot of them. Jesse Ventura was the nicest guy to me. I was like a 10-year-old kid, and he was so nice to me. He'd ask him for his autograph. He'd have like a full conversation with me, asking me all kinds of questions and stuff. He was so nice. But I was really into it back then for a few years, and then I kind of stopped. I got to be 13, 14. I started taking interest in girls and stuff instead of
Sure.
wrestling, and
Sure.
so I phased out. But you know what? My mom and dad and my grandparents, they all still kind of watched it, so I was exposed to WWE as it was coming up, and I was familiar with everybody, but I wasn't really into it. And I think when my nephew stopped watching it, like in the early 2000s, I was completely cut off from it then. So I went like a good 15 years without knowing anything, and I just stopped watching it. I didn't care anymore. I never really cared since I was about 13. I was just kind of exposed to it. But once people around me stopped watching it, and I was no longer exposed to it, I just was completely kind of cut off from it until the middle of 2023. Just a couple years ago, I have Peacock, and I was flipping through Peacock, and I saw that they have that WWE thing on the left-hand side of the menu. And I'm like, well, what the hell is this? So I click it, and I'm looking at it, and I realize that they have, well, what used to be called pay-per-views, they're now called PLEs, premium live events. They have all of those on Peacock for free,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, I know for a fact these things used to be like, you had to pay like 30, what was it, like 30, $40 to watch one of those things?
Yeah. Yeah. 30,
So
40, maybe
I,
50.
I saw that they had them all for free, and I almost just kind of felt obligated from a value standpoint to watch a couple of them.
Right.
I'm like, I'm paying, $10 here a month for Peacock. They're offering this stuff for free. I'm like, this used to be mega expensive. I got it just for the value aspect. I got to watch a few of these, and I did. I watched a few of them, and I'm like, I was really kind of blown away by the athleticism of these modern guys and the high flying and the stories. I mean, everything was better than it was when I watched it when I was younger. And I mean, just levels above it. And it was just damn entertaining. And I started watching it again. So I've been watching it consistently for like the last 2 years. Before that, I was ignorant. I mean, I didn't know who any of these guys were, other than like household names like Brock Lesnar and those kind of guys.
Sure.
I didn't know who any of these guys were, but they were damn entertaining, and I just enjoyed it. And I started watching it. I've been watching it regularly for the last couple of years. Yeah.
So I got the Peacock app. Well, let me regress for a second. So I didn't join the streaming community until probably it was 2022. I had DirecTV at the time, and it just kept it seemed like each year it was just going up and up. Like when I first got it in 2017, it was like $40 a month. Then it started cranking up to like eventually made its way up to like 80 or so, and that's just with the basic subscription. So me and my second wife, who we had we really like a lot of the shows we watched were on apps like Discovery or Disney Plus or whatever, and we had toyed with the idea of getting an internet subscription and just get like a Roku or a Fire Stick and all that. So that's kind of how that all happened. Well, I had gotten the Peacock app, and I knew that WWE was on there, and I saw the different sections, like you said, premium live events. Then they also had a section for the territories, and
Mm-hmm.
and then they also had like their Coliseum home videos, which I loved watching those as a kid. Whenever I'd go visit my late grandparents when they used to live in Ohio, and so honestly, like that nostalgia really kicked in, and yeah, man, it's just a really awesome thing to have. The getting back to AWA, they've got some of their events, and they've actually got some of their live wrestling from like 86 to 87, 88, give or take, and they've also got a documentary on it about the legacy of the AWA. Let me think here. Uh, Yeah, actually, when you said you first started watching it back in like 1980, I mean AWA was like the premier promotion at that time, because
Yeah, they really were. Yeah.
because they were in Chicago, they were in St. Paul, Milwaukee, San Francisco, and all these other places. I mean, they pretty much had the potential to have a national expansion if the late Vern Gagne had pursued that idea. And
Yeah.
but yeah, so
He could have done what Vince did. He just didn't.
right,
Yeah.
and I had this DVD set. It was Hulk Hogan: The Ultimate Anthology, and it's a 4 disc set. But on the very first disc, the second match, it's a match between him and the late Nick Bockwinkel, and it was at their
Oh
super.
yeah, I forgot to mention Nick Bockwinkel. Of course, Bobby Heenan. Oh, he
Oh
was there
yes,
too.
yes sir, Mean Gene Okerlund. Uh,
Yeah, he was there too. Yeah.
I mean that's the who's who of professional wrestling. They all got
Yeah, it really was. It was so cool. Yeah.
there was a title match between him and Bockwinkel. It was at their Super Sunday show in 1983, at the St. Paul Civic Center, which I know it's been torn down to this day, but that was like their main place where they would have these shows that you had mentioned, and I know they also had their outdoor field events as well, like a Comiskey Park and all that. And I'd actually went on a rabbit hole of AWA not too long after I saw that match between Hogan and Bockwinkel because I was like, gosh, this is a really good match, and it's a territory that's not WWF at the time. And so I started watching stuff when I'm hoping to maybe do a future episode on the AWA. But, I've watched the rise and fall of the AWA, that documentary that WWE had put out back in '06, and just got to learn a lot. And I watched some of their other events like Super Sunday, their '86 Wrestle Rock, and they had the potential, like you said, but it just never happened. Um, but Jesse Ventura, you mentioned about meeting him. I would love to meet that man. Um, I always enjoyed him as a commentator, especially with the late Gorilla Monsoon. I thought they were a great pairing. But
He was an excellent commentator.
hell yes, and
Yeah.
I watched a shoot interview. I've actually still got the DVD. It was with that RF shoot video, and I didn't know this about him, but I mean, obviously, I knew he had done time in the Navy and all that. But when he had come back, he had went to college under the GI Bill, and he was actually going to major in theater, but he also wanted to play football. And then he had the notion of well, there's take the acting and then take the physicalness and physical contact of football, combine them together, and that's when he decided to pursue a career in professional wrestling. So I thought that was a pretty good little tidbit to learn about him and stuff. And
Hmm.
so but you mentioned about kind of being out of touch for a good while. Yeah, I mean honestly, I mean even though I've been absent from the WWE game for 6 years, some of the names that were still there when I last watched it, they were still there, and they're still going strong to this day. And I'm very impressed with again with the product and with the caliber of the matches that was on last night. I thought it was really awesome. Did Let me think here. Did Have you ever watched AEW by chance?
No, I have not. I have not. I'm familiar with what it is, but I've never actually watched any of it.
Okay. I have not followed AEW, and well, when I say follow, I mean just watch the shows. I keep up with the wrestling news and the headlines and all that, but um, yeah, AEW. When I was watching it, was actually really awesome to watch. Of course, you get your negativity from the critics and whatnot nowadays about the program, but I personally wouldn't know because I don't obviously watch it. But before they came in, there was New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I actually watched that through my DirecTV subscription. And some of those guys, the Gaijins as they would call them, like Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, they were like the founders of AEW. So I thought it was pretty cool that they were going to start their own promotion. Um, Not necessarily to compete with McMahon, but just to offer an alternative, for that way
Sure.
gives
Right.
wrestlers other opportunities. So it's almost kind of like a resurrection of the territories, so to speak. Because nowadays, if you don't have, there's WWE, but you also got AEW, TNA, you've got Game Changer Wrestling, and you can go overseas to Japan. I mean, there's other options for these guys to work, and I think that's a pretty good
That's
aspect.
really nice.
Yes, sir. Uh,
And they're also actually making a little bit of money nowadays, which is something which is a lot different from the old days in the '80s, when those some of those guys back then were working for $50 a night.
right.
Now some of the big names now are making multi-million dollars a year, and I think that's just fantastic because these guys work their asses off. I liken them to stuntmen. I say they're basically stuntmen. It's kind of like a stunt show, and these guys they really put their bodies on the line. They work their ass off.
Yes, sir.
It's fun entertainment. I'll tell you.
You mentioned about the paydays, which back then they didn't go on contracts. They went on a handshake deal.
Hmm.
And of course they got paid based on how many hind ends you put in the seat. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays,
Right.
nowadays you got the contracts and stuff, and from my understanding, they're very lucrative contracts. I mean, hell, I'd like to be able to make that amount of money in 1 year myself, but that will probably never happen. Did let's see, who is back then? Did you have a favorite wrestler from the AWA?
I liked the High Flyers, Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell. They were a tag team called the High Flyers. Those guys were my favorites.
Yeah, both of them great workers. Jesse Ventura said in his shoot interview that him and Adrian Adonis would call them the High Criers. But
Good old Jesse.
oh, you gotta love Jesse. He
Oh,
which
I love him.
but he
Like I said, he was so nice to me when I was a kid. Back when I was, because I was like 10, and it was the early '80s, and back then the villains had to stay villains. It's not like today where everybody can break character and be like, yeah, it's a show. We're just putting on a show. These are characters we play. I mean, back then they protected their villain persona. So as a kid trying to get an autograph, if you go up to a villain, they're going to stay in character and be the jerk. I mean, if they'll sign the autograph, they'll just grab the pen, sign it, and hand it back to you. They're not going to be personable. Jesse Ventura, on the other hand, was the one exception to that because he was a villain. But when he would step out of the dressing room to kind of watch the match, and people would come up to him, he wasn't in character. He's like, "Hey, how you doing?" Yeah, and he'll just talk to people. And like I said, I'm just a little 10-year-old kid, and he's yucking it up with me and being super nice. He was a real nice guy. I'll always remember that because most of the villains made a point to stay villain. And he didn't care. He's just like, oh, hey, everybody, how you doing? Yeah.
um, did which I know at this point Vern would have been in his 50s, but did Vern wrestle at the show that you went to when you got to meet Jesse Ventura?
I never actually saw Vern wrestle. I believe he wrestled a little bit more a couple of times after I stopped following it. But during that little stretch, I never actually saw Vern wrestle. I did get to meet him, and I got my picture. I have a picture with him, but yeah, I never actually got to see him wrestle. He's one of the few old timers that I really didn't actually get to see in the ring during that 3-year stretch. But I got to see some like Dick the Bruiser came in one night and wrestled, and the Crusher. I actually got to see those guys in the ring a time or two. They were old at the time because they were like from the 50s and 60s, and this was like early 80s. But I couldn't. It was actually at the time I didn't think much of it, but looking back, I'm like, oh well, I actually got to see Dick the Bruiser live in the ring. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. They let me think. That now was there one point when they were brawling each other? Because I know that was like part of their character persona. Because I know they were cousins. You know what I mean? Like their characters were as cousins, but sometimes they would brawl each other just out of the blue. You know what I mean? Just for the heck of
Yeah,
it.
not when I saw them. Again, like when I saw those guys, it was just like a time or two. They were just kind of like there to just kind of do a little showcasing because they were old at that point. But
Right.
it was still cool to see them do it. Yeah.
Apparently, Crusher went to work for McMahon at some point. I think it was probably 86 or 87, but it was like kind of like just working like more so house shows like up in the Milwaukee area because obviously that's where he was from and stuff. But yeah, let me think. Um, Crap, folks, I'm sorry. So I get these blanks from time to time. I don't write off a whole list of questions and stuff. I just kind of shoot from the hip and stuff and all that. This is just all very, I guess informal would be the right word to use, Steve. But I mean, maybe if I'm
Yeah,
using,
I think.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah, I think
but
I think you nailed it. Yeah,
yeah,
it's informal and yeah, nothing
but
wrong with that.
no, sir, no, sir. Let me think. Jesse Ventura, which did you know that he tried to? You mentioned union with the Screen Actors Guild and stuff. Did you know that he tried to start a union in wrestling?
Yes, I saw him mention that in an interview I saw with him at some point. Yeah, I am familiar with him trying to do that. Yeah,
Okay.
he tried. Yeah.
Looking back, and that's I had heard that from a an old buddy of mine from a gym that I worked out at in Hopkinsville. He had stated that Jesse Ventura tried to unionize wrestling, and and at that time I didn't really know much about them. Now, my father, I've mentioned him to you long, long time ago, like once or twice, but he retired from the Paducah and Louisville Railroad, and they were union, and he was really big on the unions, and he didn't really go into a lot of details, but he said that he thought it was a good thing to have, and it kind of makes me think had they had a union in wrestling, which this would have been about '86 when because that was right before WrestleMania 2, from what Ventura said. Kind of makes you wonder what would have been if that actually did happen. These guys would have retirement, medical benefits, all other sorts of stuff. And I know Ventura has stated in more modern interviews that, and I quote, he said that McMahon is lucky that he didn't run for the Senate because he would launch an investigation as to why these guys are labeled independent contractors and all of the sorts of stuff. Because I think they also had to pay like a higher tax percentage and whatnot. But
Yeah.
there's plenty of videos on YouTube about it. But what really shocked me, well, let me backtrack. After hearing who ratted him out, it really didn't surprise me because Ventura put it into perspective. But apparently Hogan ratted him out, and Ventura didn't find out until years later in a deposition when he's suing McMahon for royalties. He finds out that it was Hogan that ratted him out about the whole union thing. So, but
Mm.
looking back, it kind of made sense because I mean Hogan was the golden goose and making the money. So,
Right.
but
Right.
hey, he tried to do something really good for the business, referring to Ventura. So I mean, I can't really fault him for that. So,
I don't know. Yeah. Who knows what would have happened had he pulled that off? But yeah, he tried.
um, were there any other wrestlers that you liked from the AWA days? I know you mentioned the High Flyers. Was there anybody else that you really enjoyed watching?
Tito Santana was fun. Rick Martel was a lot of fun. I loved Bobby Heenan. He was such, he's like the king of villains. He was so funny. And he was just great. I'm so glad I got to see him when I was young like that too. I actually got to see him wrestle a couple of times.
Yeah,
He was young enough back then where he would actually get in a ring from time to time.
sure.
I got to see him and Nick Bockwinkel in a handicap match against Hulk Hogan,
Oh
and that
man.
was fun.
Oh wow.
and but yeah, it was he was a villain. I always kind of gravitated towards the villains. I still do,
Oh yeah.
but he was always just so funny, and I liked him. But yeah, there were just so many back then who wound up going in the WWE. Ken Patera was he was in the AWA. He wound up being in the WWE for a little bit.
Uh
I didn't like him though. He actually wouldn't give me an autograph one time. So,
huh.
but no, I always liked Bobby Heenan. I always just thought he was such a good villain. So I always liked him a lot. And yeah, but I just enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Baron von Raschke was fun too. He was a fun character.
Oh God, yeah. That stomp he would do, and him holding his hand
Yeah.
up for the claw. I always liked that. Well, don't hate on me on this, but Ken Patera is actually one of my favorites. From those days. I've never met the man, never been able to speak to him and stuff. I've listened to a lot of his shoot interviews. Whether they were older ones or more modern ones. That are on YouTube, but. Yeah, God, that guy was like back in his weightlifting days. I mean, just the records
Oh
he
yeah.
set, and being the first man to overhead press 500 pounds. I mean, he was just an absolute beast. And
Yeah, he was a legitimate one of the strongest men in the world.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
he was,
sir.
and he was a wonderful villain. He played such a good villain.
Oh God, yeah. And like I compare his days as a villain compared to when Vince brought him back as a babyface. He just wasn't. Uh, uh, I think he did a better job as a heel than he did as a babyface. Now,
Oh, he
not.
was he was meant to be a villain.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Which I know he gets a bad rep about the whole alleged McDonald's thing and stuff, but he has said in interviews it wasn't him that did it. But
It was, yeah, it was more, yeah.
Yeah. Which
Saito, who really did that. Yeah.
Well, he said Saito was in the hotel room because his knee was messed up because Mad Dog Vachon had apparently whacked him pretty hard with a chair in the knee. So he said Saito was still staying in the hotel room and stuff. But for those that don't know, folks, Masa Saito, Jesse Ventura was actually a tag team partner of his, and if you get a chance to listen to the RF video shoot interview, Jesse said he lovingly called him Mr. Torture. He said, I never feared anything when Massa was around. He said he was tough. Oh, me. But yeah, Patera, he was actually, for those that don't know, he was the second Intercontinental Champion for the WWF. He dethroned Pat Patterson. He retired the late Gorilla Monsoon. I mean, so yeah, he was definitely a perfect heel. And he was one of the guys that shaved Andre the Giant, well, gave Andre the Giant that haircut
Hmm.
back in the mid '80s and stuff. Because Andre went from that big thick head of hair and then he went to like a really short cut. Well, that was because of Patera, John Studd, and Bobby Heenan. So, but
Yeah. And when I was watching it, Ken Patera was part of a tag team with Bobby Duncombe,
yeah,
and they were and the manager was Bobby Heenan, and they were fantastic heels. They were
yeah,
great bad guys.
yeah,
Yeah, and those are some other guys that I got to see live. Big John Studd, I saw him a few times. He would come through on occasion.
sure.
And at one live show, believe it or not, Jerry Lawler was there, and Andy Kaufman showed up.
No
No
kidding.
kidding. So I actually got to see these guys live in the ring for a second.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now,
So it was just a few years where I followed it, and I as a kid, and I used to go to a lot of these live shows, but I got to see so many of uh, of the icons from the days live. So it was pretty neat.
oh
Yeah.
man. See, I knew Lawler did some work with AWA. He was at their Super Show or Super Sunday show in '83. He wrestled John Tolos. For those of you who don't know who that is, he was in the WWF in like '91. He was a manager of Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. He was known as Coach. Um, but he had an appearance with that. He actually had a run with the AWA Heavyweight Championship when he defeated Kurt Hennig, and this was right before Hennig had left to go to work for Vince. And Jerry Lawler, there's one AWA match he had that really stood out to me, and it was at their Super Clash 3, which happened in December of '88. And he had a match with the late Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado. That's actually my favorite match from that card. It was a pretty brutal match. Had kind of a screwy finish, but it was a really good match. And Jerry Lawler, I've never had a chance to meet him, but maybe someday. Never say never, I guess.
Yeah, and I only saw him the one time because he wasn't AWA. I mean, he just came in for like a one-show promo kind of a thing. I believe
Right.
if I'm not mistaken, he wrestled Patera, and I think Andy Kaufman jumped in the ring and like saved Patera with a distraction or something like that. And Andy Kaufman was hated. When they were bringing him out, I mean, security had to really surround him. Beer was flying. I mean, yeah, when they were trying to get him back to the dressing room, yeah, the crowd was going nuts, throwing everything at him. Yeah, it was neat to see though. Again, yeah, at the time I'm 10, 11 years old. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then it's not until I'm later as an adult I'm like, holy cow, this is iconic stuff that I actually got to see live. Pretty cool.
Oh yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
I've been able to go to 5 live events in person. You know, one of them was an independent territory promotion back in '98. They were coming through Hopkinsville, and I got to see Barry Windham. Got a picture taken with the Rock and Roll Express, and I don't know what happened to that Polaroid, but it's got to turn up somewhere. Um, let's see, got to meet the son of superstar Bill Dundee, Jamie Dundee, or JC Ice, as he's known as, and yeah, just yeah, people. If you haven't been able to go to a live event, by all means, if you can go, try to go to at least one because it's not the same as watching it from inside your home on television or watching it through Peacock or YouTube or whatnot. It's a whole different experience by
Yeah, it's
all
a
means.
different beast altogether. It's really fun.
Yeah, you mentioned about Patera and Lawler. Yeah, they had a rivalry, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Patera had a run in over at Jerry Jarrett's promotion, the CWA over in the Memphis territory area and stuff. And I do remember Andy Kaufman being involved and all that. And I think even Patera won the belt from Lawler at one point. So, and come to think of it, I think Jesse Ventura said in his shoot interview that he had a run in Memphis as well. So, and
Uh, yeah, they may have done like something like it was like, you come out here for one show and we'll come out there for a show, that kind of a deal.
right, right. Hell, it would have been nice if I was around back then to be able to go see an AWA show because I mean, like I said earlier, that was like the go-to promotion at the time. I mean, that's where
Yeah,
Hulkamania was born. And Bobby Heenan. That's where he got the moniker the Weasel. Because the Crusher gave him that
right.
name, and he had that match with Greg Gagne for the whoever lost would wear the Weasel suit.
Yeah, the weasel suit.
I was actually
that was
gonna I was
yeah,
gonna
that all happened during the time I was watching it. Yeah.
I was gonna ask when you got to see it in person, did you get to see a Weasel match or was it just through watching it on TV?
No, I think they had that weasel mask in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, but no, I never. I just got to hear about it. I never actually got to see the weasel suit match.
Oh, okay. I got you. I got you. Well, let's see. Yeah, man, if you get a chance, check out AEW, and you'll actually see quite a few previous WWE guys. Chris Jericho's over there. Christian, uh, guy that was known as Edge, but he goes by Adam Copeland. Let's see. Since you watched the Elimination Chamber last night, Seth Rollins that
Oh
competed.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got to see his last match in WWE.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Awesome. Yeah. So Seth Rollins that was in the Chamber match last night. One of his old Shield stablemates, which in WWE he was known as Dean Ambrose, but when he left, he reverted back to John Moxley. He's also over at AEW as well. And there's a lot of other fellas that I can't think of off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, AEW's got quite the star power over there. So if you ever get a chance, give it a if you have the
Yeah,
if you have
I'll have to give it a shot.
do you have the HBO Max app by chance?
I do. I
Uh,
do. Yeah.
they do have episodes on there, and they've also got, I believe, pay-per-views on there too. So yeah, just giving you a shout out, or giving you a heads up on that. So
Okay. Cool.
well, boss man, if anybody getting back to acting, if anybody was wanting to pursue acting, what advice would you give them?
Uh, Go for it. Do everything you can. Um, Act every chance you get. If you're in an area that has community theater, do it. It's great experience. You're going to meet a lot of people. The more you act, the more people you're going to meet. I encourage do extra work if they're doing any filming around you and they're always looking for extras. Be an extra just to be on a set. You'll be surprised who you might meet, and just kind of if you're really dedicated, just act. Meet as many people as you can, and go from there and see where it takes you.
Absolutely, and folks, I mean, I've played extras, whether it was in Big Biting Pig or as an extra in a couple of musicals I was in. I mean, I did have some, key parts in some plays as well. I mean, you're not always going to be the main part, but every single role, no matter what it is equally important. And and like Steve said, the more you act, the more people you meet, you'll work with experienced actors and actresses, and also it gives you more experience so you can further your craft if you do decide you want to pursue this on a full-time basis, or if you just want to do it as a hobby. Either way, you'll gain a lot of valuable experience. So Um, so, Steve, if you want to give a plug out for your website again and the stuff that you're working on, that our listeners, if they wanted to take a look at it.
Yeah, my website is maniacontheloose.com. And there I write books nowadays. I have a ton of books. You can find them all there. I have a ton of audio books. You can find them all there. I've got all the information about the Big Biting Pig movies there, where what they are and where you can find them. So everything is at one very nice, easy, convenient, friendly user friendly website, maniacontheloose.com.
And I've definitely got to give this a look at. I'm sorry to say that I haven't checked it out, but I will most definitely check it out, man. Steve, buddy, it has been an honor having you on Grizzly's Cave. It's definitely been a blast getting to catch up with you and also get to learn about the history of Big Biting Pig Productions and even how you first broke into acting. Hell, it's been a blast getting to talk to you about wrestling and stuff. I mean, AWA. I mean, that was an incredible promotion, and I'm thankful that you shared your experiences with not only myself but with our listeners. And I'd really hope to have you back again on a future episode if you'd be more than willing.
I'd love to be back. It was an honor to be here, and yeah, it's real nice talking to you again, Andrew.
Well, and I'm sorry that we lost touch for so many years, boss man. But we'll definitely break that cycle, and I definitely want to keep in touch with you, and yeah, man, I'd love to have you back for another episode in the near future. Again, Steve, thank you again for taking time out of your day to be on Grizzly's Cave, and love you, and I miss you, and I hope we get to cross paths again here soon. So,
Right back at you, buddy.
all right, well, listen, you take care, and I'll holler at you later, man.
Okay, take it
All
easy.
right, you too, buddy.